Hello and welcome back to another Challenger series. I'm your host, Risa, and I'm joined once again by the wonderful co-caster, Casanova. Casa, how are you this week?
I am feeling good. I'm really excited to be back on the cast for Challenger Series. I felt like last week was so much fun seeing Spencer come away with that win, and now we got a chance to do this all over again. And I mean, I'm just so excited, Risa.
Last week was definitely quite a surprise with how the players surprised us, but we do have a few of the returning players from last week, along with a lot of new players from the snapshots. So let's take a look at the lineup for today. So we have Treebeard, Bertasaurus, ILikeHoboes, 1109, Benva, Robinsongz, saintvicious, and Setsuko. So saintvicious, ILikeHoboes, and 1109 are the returning players. Is there anyone new or the returning players that catch your eyes today?
Yeah, well, of course, saintvicious had kind of a tough time last week, so I'd love to see him really step it up this time around after making it in once again. But overall for me, it's got to be Treebeard standing out. I've known Treebeard through multiple games in the past. He was a really high-level League of Legends player. He was Grandmaster in Heroes of the Storm as well, and then coming along to TFT, he's had a lot of really great results. And it's been exciting to see his growth throughout the game, coming in to a couple very early Fight Night Risings as well. And then now seeing him here in the Challenger Series, going for a spot in the qualifiers. I'm really excited to see how Treebeard performs.
Yeah, I mean, every single player here is a challenger, and they were amongst the top 20s in the last leaderboard snapshot. So we'll have to see how they do. And also, this format is very unique. So in order to win, players must first get 24 points, and then they have to win a lobby or earn 40 points total. So in this format, the first place basically takes it all, and they get to go to the FACE Qualifier 1 that is going to be on November 20 to 22nd, which will lead into the FACE North American Regional Finals. So a lot of qualifiers going through, and today will be the last tournament that we're going to have a player be confirmed for the qualifier series. So lots of exciting thing, and I can't wait to go into the games. So Casanova, who are you rooting for? So is Treebeard the one, or do you feel like saintvicious can come back? Or are you looking at some of the newer players today as well, who are new to the tournament scene, but they are doing really great in leaderboard, so they're here today?
Yeah, I'm always really excited for new blood. For me, of course, I've known Treebeard for a very long time, so it's always exciting to see him play. But I'm not going to let my bias show too much. I am excited to see a lot of these other players. Robinsongz is another name. I've actually watched his stream a fair amount, and he is here today to actually compete in this. So that's always exciting to see as well. I know he's had a couple good performances in a couple other tournaments that I've watched in the past. I really just enjoy watching him play the game. So I think the opportunity to see him here in the Challenger Series is definitely something I look forward to.
I'm actually most curious about what type of comps we're going to see. So last week we talked a lot about Ashe and Talon, and granted in this meta they are still super strong, so I'm sure we're going to see them again. But surprisingly, none of them ever won a lobby last time. There was Ashe carries, there was Cultists, there was just a comp just full of legendaries that we saw. So what do you expect to see today? Do you expect the same results from last week with a lot of variation, or do you think that we'll be a little bit more consistent and see those Talon Ashe rise up once again?
Well, I think a little of column A, a little column B. I think we're going to see a lot of the Ashe and the Talon like we expected before. Maybe even some more Ahri if the items are hit like what Spencer was doing in the previous week. Saying that, you need to high roll and hit the right items, but we saw it happen multiple times and Ahri perform really well. So I think I'll throw her into the mix alongside the Ashe and the Talon. But on top of that, I do think that we are going to see a lot of adaptation from these players. They're not just going to stick with the mold. They will break it like what we saw last week with the Cultists and with just playing that strongest board until legendary units are available. It's just all about keeping that win streak up, it feels like, in this meta. It feels like just playing the best board and pivoting to what you hit absolutely is the best way to play. And if that happens to be Ashe and Talon, yes, those are very powerful, and if you hit them, you hit them hard, you're probably going to win, but they might be contested, and we'll see some other crazy strategies come out of the woodworks.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited because last time we had talks that, for example, Cultist tends to usually get weaker towards the later games, but then we saw two players win streak with Cultist all the way to the late game even, before one of them transitioned and ended up getting first place, and the other did end up keeping with that Cultist comp, but he still managed to top 4 and I believe second and third place in that lobby. So we're going to have to see. This is going to be a very unique format again, that you do have to end off either with the first place or you're consistently doing really well in the top 4 and you get the 40 points finish. So jumping to Carousel for game 1.
Yeah, we're going to jump in with Treebeard's perspective to start things off. It looks like he grabbed a tier for the start this time around. Potentially, we've seen the tier starts less commonly. Generally, we're seeing a lot of chain vests. We're seeing a lot of swords in the current meta. Is there a particular comp that you would look to force with the tier, or do you think he just kind of didn't get the general starting items we like to see?
It's not quite a force, but Luden's Echo Nami is really popular in the meta right now. So you have a tier, you have an enlightened unit, maybe you could go for it, but however, it does require you to hit that chosen Nami. You could force it if you want to, but that's something that I would say most likely will lead you to the bottom 4, versus if you do hit the chosen Nami and you have your Luden's Echo, then top 4 seems to be a lot more safer.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we'll likely see this is just a potential strategy. If Treebeard hits into it, we're going to see him buy his entire shop. He does have one Nami there already, but of course, it's not going to be something he's going to likely utilize unless he finds the Chosen. This is just the early game, looking to see what he picks up off of these neutral camps and see where the items take him, where the Chosens take him, because it is the fates. You are following your fate throughout a lot of these TFT games right now, so we'll
Small
see
little pun
what
coming
he can
out.
hit. And yeah, that is good. That's just going to be a chain vest to add on to it for the early game, which we see pretty popular, especially Guardian Angel, a big item that a lot of compositions can utilize with that chain vest.
We also see here that he already has 3 cultist warriors, so this is a really great start for him, that he could play cultist immediately from the start, and he can level up next turn and play the Jarvan, leading him into a 2 keeper / 3 cultist comp, which honestly, even without any Chosen, that is extremely strong to play on the first round. That it's going to be tough for his opponents to beat him unless they land a really nice Chosen.
Yeah, and considering we talked about how important those early win streaks can be, I would love to see Treebeard lean into that, play these cultists, go for the level up, play the keeper, and exactly what he decides to do. And hey, well, there is the Nami Chosen. Funny how you should mention that. I'm curious if we will see Treebeard go in that direction, and yeah, going to actually buy that straight away, so we won't be seeing the cultist plus the keeper, because the Fates had a different thing in mind for Treebeard here by giving him that Nami.
I didn't expect to jinx this so early when I mentioned Luden's Echo Nami. He does have a tier already, and Rod shouldn't be too hard to get on Carousel, so he could go for the comp. The one thing is that it is a enlightened Nami, so he might be going for the 6th enlightened comp with Talent, or vice versa. For me personally, I like going Mage Namis more, but we'll have to see which route he goes, or if he ends up just selling Nami completely and go for a different build.
Yeah, he may just sell it completely. I mean, just getting the Chosen Nami, thinking it would be a stronger board than the Keeper, which is likely. I think that having this Chosen Nami is going to be a little bit more powerful. Treebeard maybe just trying to get a win early on, but not going to be the case, is actually this Kindred was picked up by Setsuko, and that's going to be enough to take the round over Treebeard, doing a ton of damage in the early game with that. I believe that was a Hodge on the Kindred.
I'm surprised that Treebeard didn't put the tier onto Nami immediately. Either you sell the Nami and you can get the tier back, or you look to build that Luden's Echo later on. Either way, the tier should be on Nami, unless it doesn't feel like he should win streak. But with a cultist start, and also the fact that he did level, I would honestly have slammed that item down.
Yeah, I think that could have helped quite a bit there. I mean, it was a very close fight, so maybe if the Nami was able to get an additional bubble, it could have made the difference. And that's always something you want to be looking at, especially if you are going for the early win streak, is what items can you slam? Looks like the Chosen Garen with the Sunfire is going to be a little bit difficult for Treebeard as well, and I think he'll likely lose yet another round here, because, I mean, it's pretty tough to stop that. The item is so incredibly powerful early on in the game, and it's just a tier 2 Garen with it going to be ignoring all of that spell damage. So right now, Treebeard on a bit of a loss streak, and I'm curious if he will end up sticking to that for a little while, or if we're going to find a little bit more power, and whether or not this Nami is going to stick around. I mean, the carousel will be very telling for that, right? If he goes for the Rod, he goes for that Luden's Echo, then we might be seeing Treebeard stick with this composition, whereas he could have the option to completely pivot, maybe go for that early Guardian Angel, or just overall find the different items that he may want for a different comp down the line.
Yeah, and then switching over to saintvicious here right now, he hits a Teemo Chosen and immediately slams a Rabadon as well. So this is a big power spike for saintvicious, who was going through a win and then a loss. So he's going to hope with the Teemo to be able to win streak all the way to the Krugs round. And we did mention for Treebeard as well that he had a really strong comp, but his opponents was even stronger. Like Benva was running 4 Warlords right from the start with a Garen chosen, and it just seemed unstoppable. And unfortunate for saintvicious here, it's the Teemo chosen, but isn't strong enough to go against the Enlightened Nami cultist Treebeard that we were just talking about.
Yeah, not quite enough. It's funny to see, you know, Treebeard did look a little weak, but like you said, he was just going up against even stronger boards. It wasn't that his composition in itself was the weak one. And going up against Saint, now we did see sharpshooters actually be very powerful in the previous week. We actually saw a lot of success from multiple different players playing this comp, especially with that chosen Teemo. So I am curious if we do get Saint heading in that direction. Now, this is Spirit chosen instead of Sharpshooter chosen, so we will have to actually play more Sharpshooter units to get the benefit, but could still be quite powerful, and Spirit itself is a pretty powerful synergy.
Yeah, I was actually taking a look at Saint's stream previously to this broadcast, and his stream title was to force Talon and be a one-trick. So I'm curious to see if that was just simply a meme or he means what he says, right? Because he did pick up a glove, which is a good item for Talon. However, he does have sharpshooters and he has the Spirit Teemo chosen. So we'll have to see if he sticks with this path or he's committed in playing a really strong comp in the meta right now, which is to always just go for the Talon chosen or to run Talon 2.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to see if he will go that direction. Like you said, he did pick up that glove. That is something that he can hold on to for the Talon later on. And the Teemo, it is a Spirit Teemo. It is very early in the game, so getting a chosen just to try and win streak is completely viable strategy. You know, we're not to the point in the game. We're not on that 4-1 where we see that general roll down. So it's going to be very hard to tell what direction Saint is going to go at this point in the game. But the one thing we do know is his board feels incredibly weak in comparison to everyone he's running up against. And he's going to be sticking on this lock streak for a little while to kick things off.
Yeah, it's a shame that it's a Spirit Teemo and not a Sharpshooter, because he does have 3 Sharpshooter right now, and 4 Sharpshooters in the early to mid game is extremely powerful. So a little unfortunate there for him, but he is able to save slightly a little bit more health. Not as much as we would have hoped. The plan for picking up that Teemo is because of the fact that you want to at least get a few wins, or in order to save some health, you pick up the Teemo early to become stronger. But this Spirit Teemo just hasn't really been doing that for him. He's running 3 Warlords, but he's been on a loss streak, so there's really not much benefit from the buff. And the Teemo itself, it hasn't been pushing enough damage.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not doing enough early on, and like you mentioned, just a weak board surrounding it. The Teemo alone isn't going to cut it. And Saint, you know, we saw him last week having a lot of games where he was starting out towards the bottom of the table of HP. And at the start of today, the first game, it is looking like a repeat so far, but obviously this has just been a few rounds. This isn't really telling of the overarching strategy for this entire game. And Saint absolutely can bring this back over the course of this one. It just matters if he can hit once we get towards the 4-1, where we get towards those pivots coming out of each of these players.
Yeah, one thing I did notice in all of these players' comp is that a lot of them are running Warlords. So Warlords did get a slight rework with Xin Zhao. And in general, Warlord was playable in the last meta as well. And so something that you could go for is to go for full Warlords and to run the Katarina carry. So I'm curious to see if any of these players will go that path, just because of the fact that there are many Warlord players. Obviously, for a player like Saint, he just had 3 of them that were all tier 1. And so most likely he won't go for it. But hey, if he hits something early, maybe he would go for it.
Yeah, the Xin Zhao buff is certainly interesting as well, because it also opens up potential for duelists to even come back a little bit. Now, it is going to be pretty rare that we'll see that, but if someone hits an early chosen Yasuo and wants to hard force that, you know, it's not a composition we've seen at all recently, but if you hit really hard, it can still be quite powerful. But that is going to be an Infinity Edge committed by Saint straight away onto this Jhin, which does lead me to believe that he is going to continue with that Talon forcing strategy, but we'll have to see if he continues down that path, because that is still a sharpshooter and a good item for it, as he has 4 sharpshooters at this point in the game.
So the IE definitely could be flexible and for Ashe or Talon, but the thing is he did hit a Jhin really early, right? And also he did slam the Quicksilver. Normally, if you want to hard force for the Talon, you might save that glove for a Last Whisper or a Hodge. Quicksilver is not the worst item, but it's not the ideal item for Talon either. The fact that he did slam it, and the fact that he also hit the Jhin super early, he could honestly just commit for the sharpshooter path.
Yeah, that is true. And like you mentioned, I mean, Quicksilver, that is a little bit better for these ranged carries. We used to see it a ton on the Ashe, and it can be very good for this Jhin as well to try and protect them against a lot of the early CC, keep up that damage output throughout the entire round. And, on the 4 sharpshooters early, has the chosen Teemo. The items look good for Jhin. If he can get to that tier 2 Jhin pretty quickly, this composition could completely turn around and be quite powerful. But still, 5 loss streak for Saint. He can't catch a break, and he's losing a ton of HP, already down to 67 on 3-2. Compared to the rest of the lobby, I mean, the next closest is in the 70s at 73 with Treebeard, but it is, it does start to get a little bit scary as we continue on here if Saint doesn't start to hit.
Yeah, especially when you have 2 players who are on the win streak with 100 HP and 92 HP. Most likely you're weaker than those 2 players, so if you land against them, you're taking a solid 10 to like 12 HP like during these rounds, and that would bring you down to 50 or lower by wolves, which is really scary. But jumping into 1109 right now, he is running, I believe, dual warlords. And also Vanguards, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, he has a chosen Vanguard Wukong here, it looks like, and that's going to be alongside the Warlord. And that's Divine and Duelist is the other 2 synergies here. The 1109 is another returning player from last week. I felt like he had a pretty strong showing overall, but, Spencer had that domination 1 in 4 games, which is the fastest that you actually could possibly win. And so we didn't get to see as much of these players as we might have liked to. But, 1109 coming in strong at 86 HP near the top of the lobby, only behind Setsuko at the 100 HP mark, which, if you remember from last week, pretty much every time someone was win streaking at 100 HP for this long, they either won the lobby or top 2'd the lobby. So looking at Setsuko, you got to feel really comfortable in this spot at 100 HP.
Yeah, because usually at this spot, you've been win streaking so much that you have at least like a 20 gold lead over majority of players at this point. And with 20 gold, you can get to level 7 much quicker. You can find your chosen at level 7 quicker than others. And that's just such a significant advantage that it's really hard to throw and put yourself into bottom 4 unless 1, really unlucky rolls, or 2, you wasted that money.
So now we get a look at Setsuko, and this is some Moonlight. This is a chosen Moonlight Aphelios, I believe, here, and that's going to be the tier 3 Silas coming out of that one. And I guess it goes to show just why Setsuko is so strong right now. I mean, the Silas with the Warmogs, that is an early game item looking to help win streak. Now that will fall off a bit as the game progresses, and we even see here 1109 came pretty close to beating Setsuko. But the question then comes down to, is the gold lead enough to carry out the rest of the game? And historically, it has been enough to carry you through and get you to those late game stages where you can, get a top 1, top 2 finish in the game. But yeah, this composition from Setsuko, very strong right now, but it is spiking, and it's going to start to fall off pretty soon here around 4-1 when everyone rolls down.
Yeah, it definitely will be interesting to see. We definitely saw in the past where you have that super early win streak, and again, you're slamming all your items, as we saw Haj, Zeeks, and Warmox. He's wasting no items at all, and he's playing the early chosen, which was the Aphelios that he got. And so with that gold lead, he might just end up top 4 no matter what. But question is, can you win the lobbies, right? Just because the fact that you have these great early start, if your items are not great late game or you don't have a solid comp to back it up, you'll fall off eventually and unable to secure that first place. So we'll have to keep an eye out for Setsuko. But looking back at 1109 right now, it seems like he is coming in with the Vanguards for now and looking for a transition. So curious to see what he transitions to. He already has a GA. He has a sword already. So we're looking most likely at that 4-1 roll down again and looking for the Ashe or the Talon.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
This does feel very standard from 1109. This really does feel like that 4-1 roll down. Gonna find whichever carry that he can actually hit. I think it won't be much of a differentiation between which he prefers. I think it's just gonna be, okay, see an Ashe, see a Talon, see what we can buy. Maybe we hit a tier 2. All right, that's the one we're going. Because the items reflected right now are going to be strong enough in general. As he does go against Hobos here, who has that very powerful chosen Annie, with the Bramblefest and the Titans Resolve. And I believe, this composition looks actually quite strong from Hobos right now. I wonder if he could even beat Setsuko.
Yeah, I would love to actually take a look at Hobo's build, just because of the fact that he surprised us a lot in a lot of his games last time. In his first game, I remember Hobos went with Cultist, and then he built a comp that was just full of 2-star legendaries. I believe the only legendaries that he did not have was a Lee Sin 2 and a Lilia 2. Other than that, he had every other legendary on his board. And so we'll have to see if he transitioned into something like that again, which does require a really great start, which he does not have this time, but it's still a decently strong one.
Did you see that scout? I think that was a chosen Ash that was on Benva's
Oh
board.
no.
But anyways, we'll get back to this fight for a second here. This is 4 mages with the chosen mage Annie, but I said, hey, maybe he can beat Setsuko. No, the answer is no, he cannot. Setsuko absolutely destroys Hobos. We did get a chance to see it, but wow, I mean, the Kindred 2 picked up by Setsuko on this last round, I believe, going to be increasing the damage output so much of that composition. And I mean, he's still looking so powerful on that 100 HP. Speaking of powerful boards, though, I think Treebeard, we see 73 HP. That was the last time we checked in. He hasn't lost since, so he's likely very strong, as we are going to see the earliest level 7 going to Setsuko on 3-7.
So a lot of times players actually do like to level up to 7 here, even at the cost of 50 gold econ, just because of the fact that that extra roll from the shop to the next stage is that crucial. So this is a different style of playing. Players usually might keep the 50 gold, and others are saying, hey, that is important enough for me that I want to be level 7 on the Wolves round.
Yeah, Hobo's got a full menagerie of items picked up here off of that creep round, and he's going to be able to start looking for his own roll down on this level 7. Finds an Azir and an Ashe. So this might be the makings of a composition. To start things off, going to go for the Hunter chosen with the Aphelios. To go 3 Hunter with the Ashe in. Going to play Enlightened and Mystics as well to go alongside this Azir. The items are still looking pretty good, but no Infinity Edge, no Guardian Angel, no swords, I think, notably for Hobos. And I'm sure he would be liking to have at least one in this spot.
Yeah, Hobo is in a tough spot right now, in my opinion. He is at 7 gold. He got very lucky in hitting that Azir that is able to give him some sort of front line. But otherwise, his board is very weak. I actually think he might win just because of the Azir tanking a solid amount, keeping the Hunters alive to proc it off.
Yeah. Also notably, the Azir Sand Soldier kept that Sejuani on the side, making it ult just a small fraction of the board where it wasn't hitting the Hunters. And that was also the chosen Ashe on the other side that he just beat. It was Benva's chosen Ashe with the Sejuani front line, and Hobos was still able to win that. And while I agree with you, I think that this board, it doesn't feel incredibly strong from Hobos. It feels like it was very carried by the Azir and the positioning that he had overall. I do think that the fact that he was able to pick up a win and can at least have a little reprieve to try and econ back up and look for another roll down. At least he's got one Ashe. At least he's got this 5 cost already, this legendary unit with the Azir. He might be able to stabilize into a top 4 at least.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, he has been holding Jins on his bench as well. So I'm curious to see if he's thinking of any sort of transition or just putting that unit in at any point. But I'm curious to see or understand why he still has it on his bench, even though it's costing him his econ at the moment. But as we mentioned before, his comp in general is a little bit weak. The Azir is unfortunately unable to carry him for this round and taken over by Robin.
Yeah, Robin also on sharpshooters. So that's Robin on sharpshooters, which is contesting Saint then, which might be why Saint is down on 30 HP and just now hits Jin 2. So that is definitely a tough spot for Saint. We expected he might have been able to get that Jin very early on, but instead, no, he's certainly struggling down there at 30 HP. Robin having a better time with his own variation of these sharpshooters. And finally, it's a Jin being played by Hobos. It is just a Jin 1, however. I'm not sure that that's going to give him the extra oomph just yet. As he goes against Bertasaurus, that's going to be Cultus. Once again, the big pull in, and that is the Galio hitting everything. Fortunately for Hobos, the Kennen isn't really getting onto many priority targets here, but I mean, with this Galio just tanking everything up, it's still just going to be nights out, and Hobo's going to take a very big chunk of damage from Bertasaurus there.
I mean, he is very close to a Gen 2, which is probably the main reason why he's keeping it, because a Gen 2 is often stronger than the TF that he had. However, a Gen 1 at this moment without any synergies is still extremely weak. So at Carousel now, let's see what Hobos go for. Most likely the Zillion? No, he wants the Rod. So looking at his current bench right now, he has a Cloak, which I don't think he's going to slam for the Ionic Spark, or maybe if he goes for the Riven Dust play. So I think that might be the transition. He has the Bramble, he has an Ionic Spark, and he has a Titan's Resolve. These are all decent items to put onto your Riven, and he has the composition for it with the Keeper, Azir, and the Jhin and Cassiopeia. So we'll have to see. I mean, granted, he's going to take quite a hit during this round and the next stage, leaving him potentially down to the 20s if he loses 2 in a row.
Yeah, I think that feels likely here for Hobos. This is going to be probably 2 hits, going down to about 20, and then rolling down to hopefully hit that Riven, maybe find Riven 2. I'm with you. I don't really love Hobo's spot here. I'm sure Hobos doesn't love Hobo's spot here as he goes into these later rounds of the game, and he's just trying to string something together. Now, we have seen miracles. We could see him just high roll, hit exactly what he wants, and find his way back in. But he's against 1109, who's got a Talon here, a chosen Talon at that is going to start getting through and ripping up the back line. But, well, maybe not. That's a stun. And we do have the Hunters taking down the Talon into the GA, at least going to mitigate some of this damage. The round obviously not going to be won by Hobos, but at least it was a better loss than we may have been expecting at the start of that one.
Great position by Hobo there. The Keeper Azirs and also the position in the corner spots did help it so that the Talon actually got proc to GA and took a while before it cleaned up the rest. But it is a chosen Talon, and at this point where Hobos does not have any tier 2 forecast units or not much tier 2 units in general, that was actually a really good loss for him.
Yeah, I mean, it was, that looked like it should have gone really bad, and he only lost about 7 HP, which is certainly a good one for Hobos. As we're going to jump over to Treebeard once again, who was on quite the win streak until the last couple of rounds here. The last 2, I believe, he just lost in a row, playing 6 Cultists. So Cultist, again, showing up and actually having a good performance, as we see him going into Bertasaurus, who's the other Cultist player. So we have a Cultist mirror this late into the game between these two players. It's just the Kennen for Bertasaurus is like the big difference between these two compositions, and it does tear up the front line quite a bit, but overall it does look like Bertasaurus is going to be able to win this round. Maybe the difference maker being that Zillion alongside the Kennen, giving a little bit of extra survivability and some extra CC to that Cultist composition.
We do see here that Treebeard also is on a 3 loss streak, so Cultist is definitely falling off for him for the past few rounds. So, I was just going to say that from a Cultist spot, transition into a Riven is very possible. He has a blue buff and a Bramble. Yep, you take that every single time as a Dusk Riven.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see the pivot. You get the Dusk Riven, which is incredibly strong, and he might be able to find his way to 4 Dusk before this next round. He has the items, as you mentioned, for this Riven.
I was honestly really looking forward for the big brain pivot play, just because of the fact that you are in a Cultist spot where you're falling off, but then his next shot was just, here you go, a Dust Riven. So I was like, all right, no brainer here.
So really just what you're saying is this was a massive brain play from Treebeard.
Yes.
Really
100%.
Just pushing the meta of the game by buying the Riven in his shop and putting it into the game. But yeah, I mean, of course, it's great. It's a great opportunity for Treebeard to pivot. That was a great role to pick that up. And now he's going to find quite a few Dusk here to actually set up to play for. I wonder if he can even go 6 Dusk. Yeah, he's got the Lilia. It's just about finding the best way to put that in.
He has a Lilia, and he also has a Dust Spat on his bench. So there we go.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah, that's so good. That is so good here. For Treebeard, he might be able to completely turn this. I mean, this to me with that turnaround, I feel like this has got to be a top 4 for Treebeard. I mean, this seems so incredibly powerful for him to find that Dusk Spat. It's going to go onto the Cane, and the Riven has, I mean, near perfect items. It's got the blue buff. It's got the Bramble. Like, this is a really great spot to be in. He even hits into Hobos, which is fortunately for Treebeard kind of like a free win on this round. We'll see if Hobos can actually hit himself, but the Riven chosen being picked up by Treebeard is going to take a couple out of the pool there, make it a little bit harder for Hobos himself.
The transition honestly could not have gone more perfect for Treebeard with the Dust Riven and he just hitting back-to-back units after that. And also the fact that he has a Dust Spat, and one more thing is he has a Nico on his bench, and he has a Yone already, and he has a Cane. So as long as he hit one more of those units, he just has to Nico one of them, and there you go. You have another tier 2 legendary.
It was the but also the Azir. He also just finds this Azir in the shop, Risa, which is going to give him Keeper on top of this. It is just lining up perfectly for Treebeard. The stars aligning. He even hits Aatrox 2 on this shop, which is just like, adding to it. It's not the biggest thing, but it is just another good thing happening for Treebeard, and I fully expect him to win streak a lot in the coming rounds as he eventually finds these tier 2 legendary units.
Yeah, so usually people say that Dust is weaker than Talon or Ash comps, but when you hit a perfect Dust comp such as this one, then we just see, like just now, he went against the Talon comp, but absolutely destroyed it. So, and the roles are just working out for him. So he does hit the Jin 2. He's questioning where or not he even wants to put it in. Technically, the Yone and the Kane, it might not be necessary to have both of them, but you're running 6 Dust, and that's just a huge power spike that running all the legendaries is never wrong anyways. So it's just a question of if he even values any of the sharpshooters, which he's not running Vayne, so he doesn't, or Cultist, which it seems like he's not going towards that path either.
Yeah, so he just sells the Jin. He's going to make some more gold and look for his legendaries. I want to note quickly that Saint did die in the last round. He did go down. So that is going to be an 8 for Saint to start the day once again. But wow, look at this. Setsuko still so incredibly strong. His pivot working out well as well going into these hunters. Looks like Chosen Ash was found by Setsuko when he went for his own pivot.
Really great for Setsuko since he was running Hunters originally already with I believe he was a Moonlight player. And so finding that Ash for him was extremely great. That, again, another very fluent transition for him.
Yeah, it looks like it will kind of be, a Setsuko versus Treebeard, at least at this point. Bertasaurus also very strong on a win streak. We will want to get a chance to see his board. Hopefully someone scouts it soon. But yeah, Treebeard going to be quite strong. I think Setsuko was the main threat. And I'm curious if anyone else is beating this Riven board right now. Bertasaurus is the one that I am potentially worried about Treebeard for. And we haven't seen him fight against Bertasaurus recently, so that could be coming up in the next couple of rounds.
Yep, doing his roll down right now. He finds his Azir. I think ideally he wants to find other legendaries, and just if he finds another Azir, then he can potentially just save his Nico. But I would definitely want to have a tier 2 Kane, just because it has a Dust Spat on that unit.
Yep, and he's going to get Rost and a blue buff for the Kane as well. So I think he certainly is leaning towards that Kane for the Nico. I think he really, really wants to hit that. But yeah, going against Bertasaurus. So we did call that one. We're going to see if Treebeard is strong enough to beat this win-streaking player. And it looks like it. I mean, it looks like Treebeard is absolutely monstrous and will be able to end the win streak for Bertasaurus.
Bertasaurus was the other Cultist player, I believe, and I'm not positive from this perspective, but I believe that he has not changed too much from Cultist, versus Treebeard did transfer his comp into something more powerful, which is the 6 Dust comp.
Yeah, and Hobos actually goes down on that last round. We're going to see the 2-star Cassiopeia picked up by Treebeard, and we're going to jump over to Setsuko, who is on 5 Hunter with the Chosen Ash, going full into it for this game. Now, it does feel mainly like a 2-horse race between Setsuko and Treebeard for the first place. But on top of that, 1109 has the Talon, has the Morgana. Very, very strong board. Robinsongz was that sharpshooters, which we actually saw do quite well in the last week's Challenger Series. So I am curious if either of those players are going to be able to bring it back against Setsuko and Treebeard in this particular lobby, as we have a fight between Bertasaurus once again. We're just getting him from Setsuko's side this time, and the Hunters, maybe not doing as well as I'm giving them credit for, because it looks like they will be falling to the Cultists unless maybe the Hodge healing is quite a bit, and that's only a tier 1 Riven. So even with the revive from the Zillion, I did speak too soon. This Kindred is still popping off. Going to take the win for Setsuko, try and restart the win streak, but he is at 60 gold and is going to be able to roll down for a lot of these, even being able to potentially replace this Kindred for the items if he wants to, or go for tier 3 Kindred. I'm curious, what do you think? Is it ever a tier 3 Kindred angle?
I personally wouldn't go for it, but we'll have to see, because the thing is with Setsuko is that he is in a spot where he's really relaxed and he's just going potentially for fast 9. So due to that, I don't know if he's keeping the Kindred for now because he has a goal to go for it. And we did mention how you feel like he might be close with the other competitors, but if you look at Treebeard, for example, the last person we looked at, he rolled out all his gold at 0. Right, and so technically Setsuko here has a 50 gold lead over Treebeard, more than that to be honest, because he's been leveling up and using his gold. So we'll have to see how he does. Even without using up all that gold, he was still very on par with the other competitors, and he even won his last fight. So I think this is like a guaranteed top 3 or even like top 2 for Setsuko, but we'll have to see here if he does go for a...
Ooh, King 2. King 2.
He hit the King 2, okay.
We just saw that pop up. Set 2 for Bertasaurus. That King 2, I think, is a very big point for Treebeard and actually getting even stronger because there were good items on it. But Benva very close to falling at this point, going to be going against Setsuko, who is one of the stronger players in the lobby, even though he is still rolling down gold. And we just see this Ashe absolutely shredding. This is a Katarina comp from Benva, though. Very interesting to see. And I said Ashe was shredding, but I didn't say which Ashe. Benva's actually going to take that one, staying alive a little bit longer. So we keep seeing the scouts going around. Robinsongz in a lot of trouble. Actually will fall here. Going to go out in 6th. Fall down to Bertasaurus.
Yeah, right now Setsuko he does his roll down. I was just going to say, oh, jeez. He hits the set 2, which is exactly what he needed. His comp is really strong and has plenty of damage, but he was lacking a front line. He does have the Bramble work and the Shen, but that really doesn't do as much as he would like. But problem solved. He hit the Brawler, the set 2, and on a 20 gold roll down, I believe it was, that he found 2 sets. But granted, he is level 9, so the percentage is at 15%.
Yeah, he found the sets, but also the Yone, which gives him 3 Adept, which is going to also help the tankiness overall of his composition. And also there was that Azir. We'll see if it gets played, because that can also help with the front line as Talon gets in and actually assassinates Ashe. But overall, there's just too much damage from all of these hunters, and the Talon's not able to do enough. So Setsuko is going to continue on this win streak as 1109 and Benva are both in danger of falling on this round. And it will be Benva falling to 1109. So we're going to have our first top 4 in Challenger Series tonight. It's going to be Setsuko, Treebeard, Bertasaurus, and 1109 going into the final stretch of this lobby.
Yep, and then as you mentioned before, Setsuko is going for that Kindred 3. Something I have noticed from previous lobbies as well in last week's Challenger Series is that, is he going to Nico it?
Oh, he has it. He's just there. He's just on the tier 3.
He will Nico. I forgot about it just because he hit that set 2 so easily that he still had a Nico option. But Setsuko, extremely strong 4 hunters with a set 2 and Shen 2 frontline and the Yone as well. Will he take down Treebeard, who had hit the Yone 2 and the King 2, I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the King 2 is quite powerful, and the Ashe did get pulled in by the Aatrox. So now it is just this Rost being able to continue to heal up and see if it can survive. It is getting there very quickly, but no, that Kindred is just so strong, actually. The tier 3 Kindred doing 11,000 damage in that fight and taking over Treebeard. When she actually gets that ultimate off, just being able to one-shot all the threats, even through their vamp, because, well, you can't vamp if you get one-shot. And Treebeard not able to win against Setsuko. It is looking like it may just be Setsuko marching towards the first, and once again, being the player that was at 100 HP all the way into stage 3. Once again, leading the lobby, looking like they might win with that economy advantage that they did net themselves.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about Ashe comps, and obviously with an Ashe comp, you're looking at Ashe, but in this case scenario, the Kindred actually does so much work, and even outside of this particular game and the Kindred 3, the one great thing about Kindred is that it does have the power of the stack items to one-shot the assassins that come for Ashe. So yeah, we saw in the previous last 2 fights that there was a Kane 2, there was a Talon 2, and the Ashe might immediately get annihilated, but the good part is that the Kindred can either save it or finish the job by just one-shotting the assassin from the other side.
Yeah, I mean, the trade capability is so worth it because the Kindred is still able to carry after the fact. So after the fact, as long as the Ashe is traded for that assassin, the Kindred can carry through and do enough, especially with how strong this front line is, as Bertasaurus is still on Cultist, and we'll see if that's going to be enough to deal with these backline hunter carries of Setsuko. I'm not sure that they are going to be enough. As the pull does come in on Ashe once more, we do see the Kindred is still full HP, and I mean, it's down to the Riven, but she's just getting chunked down by this Kindred. And Kindred
The
just kiting. I mean, the Hodge, the healing, just kiting all of them. And Bertasaurus is going to go down. Setsuko is just way too strong. 13,000 damage from the Kindred, once again carrying through. And 1109 actually fell to Treebeard on this round even harder than Bertasaurus did. So it will be 1109 in fourth, Bertasaurus in third. And now Treebeard versus Setsuko for the 1v1. And we'll see if Treebeard can pull it back. But when we look at this composition from Setsuko, I mean, Risa, do you think it's even possible for Treebeard to take this?
I think that Treebeard has it positioned perfectly where the Cane actually lands on the Kindred and the Ash at the same time. Because with the Chalice, he's probably going to keep those two together. So if Treebeard can hit those two and finish the job and one-shot those two carries, he could win.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Cane getting very close to them in the back line. We'll see. Oh, it goes the wrong way, but it comes back. The Kindred's down, actually.
Couldn't get the Ash, though.
No, it was so close, actually, to being able to win that. Because I think if the Cane goes through, kills the Ash, there is an opportunity for Treebeard to win that. But no, Setsuko going to take game one, get first place on that one after the dominant early game, being able to econ so much. And just a beautiful pivot into that Hunter's composition after finding the chosen Ash.
We did predict it as well with Setsuko having, as you mentioned, dominated early game with 100 HP past Krugs even. And then now also the other contenders third that you mentioned is Treebeard, who had the perfect pivot and was able to come out as top 2 as well. But really hard to say. The Cane 2 was really scary, but we had Ash 2 and then the Kindred 3. That was actually the true carry, I believe, in majority of fights in saving the Ash. But it is our first Ash comp winning the Challenger Series as expected to finally show
Ash
up.
Ash comp, yeah.
Hunter comp is what we'll call it. But we'll take a look at the scoreboard really shortly as well. So Setsuko here with the 10 points being the closest to the 24 points lead. And then we have Treebeard followed by Bertasaurus in 1109. So again, we have some players at the bottom, but this format is designed so that underdogs can definitely come out at the top. So how do you feel about these futures games that are going to come?
Yeah, well, I really liked how Treebeard played that, but he did get quite lucky with that pivot. So I'd love to see in a spot where maybe he doesn't get as much of a high roll, how well he's doing in these games, because I do think he's a very strong player. Setsuko as well, he had a great early lead. We'll see if he can carry that through. Saint, another 8th here for Saint. I really feel like this is not indicative of Saint's level as a player. I feel like we haven't seen everything out of Saint just yet. And I'm excited to see if he can start to pull things back. It's just game one. It's still anyone's game here. But overall, there was a lot of really good stuff in this first lobby. We had a Kindred comp win this time, so still staying away from the mold a little bit. But yeah, I'm just looking forward for the rest of the games tonight.
Yeah, and then another thing too, like Saint is amazing in the leaderboards. Every single snapshot, he's top 8 as well. So this is honestly could be a practice for him as well, since leaderboard is in their qualification to get into the NA qualifier event. So tournament setting and leaderboard setting is really a different type of pressure for players. So it's interesting to see how players adapt to different style, especially when you have a unique format such as the one today, where yes, for the first few games, you're just kind of going for the top 4, racking up points. But later on is where we'll see the true strategies come out, where you have to kind of deny a player from getting that first place once they hit that 24 points mark. So we'll be going into game 2 very shortly, and I'm extremely excited to see the strategies as well. We have seen that early game strategies has been kind of the most important in some of these lobbies, right? Like we have seen Setsuko with a 100 HP win, and so what kind of stars do you think that players should be going for in order to be like Setsuko?
It's always play strongest board. I feel like the meta has been like this for actually quite a while, but realistically, you just need to play the strongest board. You need to find, ways to get your economy up in the early game, and then open up the opportunities to play flexible and pivot into what is going to be a strong late game comp. And we've seen in the past, it doesn't matter if it is, the best comp in the meta. It doesn't have to be the Talon or the Ash. As long as you find something where you are able to hit and you can pivot into, if you have the economy to back it up, these players have been able to secure wins with these compositions.
Yep, so we're starting off with Setsuko once again. He has the sword already, so he is on a good path for the Talon Ash comp. And then talking about strong early games, You always love a cultist chosen.
Yeah, I mean, Setsuko just going to start out with cultists, potentially. We don't have a second cultist to go alongside the chosen just yet, but the odds of hitting just one other cultist by the time these fights come around, I feel like are quite high. It would be pretty unlucky for Setsuko to not find a single other cultist before getting into these early fights. And we could see a repeat of the win streaks early on. Even a sword start for Setsuko, I think, is a really good thing because there are a lot of items you could slam. GA, there you go. You could just slam it if you want some extra early power. It is an item that you could feel comfortable slamming because it fits in so many compositions. No cultist on this one, so we'll see. But I think it'd be just incredibly unlikely that Setsuko doesn't at least find that by the first PvP round.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed as well is that, yes, having a cultist start is extremely strong, but I believe in our last game, we had another player who had 3 cultists and also a Jarvan as well. He did transition into a Lion Nami with 3 cultists, but he ended up going on a 2-3 loss streak. So just one thing is that most players do tend to level to 4 on 2-1, and everyone is playing their strongest board. So even though you have a cultist, it may not be guaranteed. So we'll have to see how far this at least will carry Setsuko, but he does not hit.
He doesn't actually find the cultist. I talked it up so much about, of course he'll hit one, but he does find a keeper. He does find Jarvan. That will help the power level overall, but I think that without the actual cultist synergy, Setsuko's board is arguably, not even arguably, it's quite weak in comparison to a lot of other boards that can exist in this game. I think the tier 2 Vayne might be able to make a big difference, and it's interesting to see how this will turn out for Setsuko. It's more about who he hits than how strong his own board is. And going against Benva, I think this is definitely a winnable board for Setsuko.
Yeah, and another thing, as you mentioned, Keeper's actually a really strong start as well, just because it gives you that tankiness for your backline to push out the damage. But unfortunately for Setsuko is that his only item that he can make right now is a GA. And so it's not pushing out as much damage as he'd like. Ideally, he could have put in an IE or, he did not. He didn't put a GA on in time.
Yeah,
Oh no.
I wonder... That might have been able to win the round. I mean, it would have been close. We do see that the Elise did end up going down to the Twisted Fate. The Mage synergy just being a little bit too strong in the early game. Setsuko just cannot find this cultist. Not going to be able to help him out on this next PvP round either. So we will see a couple losses early on. It is funny to see because I think if Setsuko had hit the cultist to go alongside this board, I think he was in a really good spot to win that last round at least and potentially continue on the win streak, especially having a Vayne 2 in the back line, which is going to be at least somewhat strong to go alongside this Elise.
Yeah, and then we see Setsuko here decide to opt for the Dust and the Vanguards. Vanguard's obviously a really great early game composition, but again, he's not really pushing out much damage. You see on the other side of Hobos is running sharpshooters, and it's doing a sufficient amount of damage. So it's just like a slow race, right? So we have sharpshooters slowly doing damage, but then we also have the Vanguards tanking up a lot of damage. But unfortunately, the Vayne does get taken down. There is not enough of a offense from Setsuko's end.
Yeah, I mean, Hobo's also having this easy rot portal just means that the tankiness of the front line is far too much. Setsuko's never going to win that without any backline access in the position. It's just a Vayne, it's just hitting front to back, and you've got, this wall of beef alongside that ZZ Rot portal, creating that little minion, going to be doing even more. And once again, I mean, Risa, just no culprits. They don't exist in Setsuko's shop. They're all hovering. There's nothing there. You can't get there, and Setsuko is just sad, I guess. Like, he's just not going to be able to find anything early on. As we jump over to 1109, who has got that Wukong, Divine Wukong, a little bit of bonking in the early game.
Definitely Sag indeed. You can see him hovering around his cultist buff as well, saying like, hey, I'm definitely keeping this Elise, but it's really bringing me down because I'm not finding my third cultist. So he did put in the Akali now in order to push out some damage, which is working out more into his favor, and we'll see if he actually gets first pick in the carousel. And 1109 here, he's building more towards Riven items, and the Akali actually stays alive in the back and does enough. Oh, wait for the Bramble.
Yeah, the Bramble picks them both up. The bonk too strong for Setsuko, so he will be able to get first pick alongside Treebeard, at least potentially. He's actually tied with Bertasaurus at 88. And unfortunately for Setsuko, he does get snubbed on the tie and does not get first pick. I'm not sure if he was not able to get the item that he wanted. The sword was the only thing that was on there that he can't still pick up. will end up grabbing the bow. I'm curious if Setsuko did want that sword, because that is something that, having first pick would have been very important to try and get, as we do see Treebeard picking that up instead.
He had a sword already, so I think ideally for him, he would have went for the glove, which would have made him IE, which I'm not sure if there was a glove on the carousel. I saw a lot of spats for sure. He ended up picking up a bow, which is transitioning over to 1109 real quick. That's an Ashen shop.
That is a very early Ash. And I'm curious. I mean, like, you want to buy it, but also your economy's in shambles.
You buy that no matter what, though.
You have to buy it. The thing is I guess because it's a forecast that you don't have to like hold on your bench, you're always just playing it because it's Ash, and even 1-star Ash is still so incredibly powerful. You just always buy it. You're right. You always buy that. And now 1109's path through this game is a little bit more defined because he already has Ash. He can look for things that complement it and start to build his composition as this game ramps up. And at least, that's a very comfortable way to play TFT.
Yeah, we're going to have to hope that 1109 gets a win streak from this point on, because his econ, as you mentioned before, is a bit rough. He has been going on a win-loss streak, finally being able to secure himself for 2 wins, but he is at 7 gold, pushing to 10 here most likely, but we'll see. I'll be surprised if he doesn't go for 10 gold, sell the Jarvan, and then probably sell the Garen, and hopefully he wins one here so that he can get the 10 gold.
Yeah, and I mean, with the Bramble on the Wukong having the Vanguard synergy and then just this early Ash, I think it is, pretty feasible that 1109 actually finds the win. There's a couple of people that are quite powerful. Robinsongz at 100 HP. Benva hasn't taken a loss in quite a while as well. Potentially, that could be difficult. I mean, look, this is a lot of mages already. Is this 6 mage?
If that is a mage chosen in TF, then yes, that is 6 mages.
6 mage. That might be a bit much for 1109 to deal with. Yeah. Looking pretty tough, but that is going to be the Wukong going into Divine State at least. Maybe going to do enough, but there is the stun from the Nami. Without that stun, the Wukong actually would have been able to kill that TF before he cast the wild cards and would have won that. So it was very close on that fight, but 1109 does end up losing and has to sell a little bit more to make that 10 gold.
That was a really unfortunate loss for 1109, because as mentioned before, he is really going for a win streak in order to make up for his econ so that he hit level 7. But at this point, it seems like his level 7 roll down is going to be around 10 to 20 gold, or we'll have to see how he econs in his stage 3 rounds. But, it's rough right now for 1109 in terms of econ.
He just found Sejuani, though. He's just hitting 4-cost units all day right now. And, I mean, if he can find a tier 2 on one of those, I mean, that's going to be insane. Even with the tier 2 Aurelia, could be a very good pickup for 1109 as he is holding those on the bench. But we saw him scouting, and Saint also has a very early Ash from what I noticed. And he had a couple of items on it already. So there are a couple tier 1 Ashes already in this game in stage 2 that a couple of players are playing and utilizing to try and continue to scale up.
He hits the Kindred, which is really great for him. So once 1109 gets to level 6, I would say that he's just going to go on a solid win streak, just because of the fact that you have 4 Vanguards, and then you also have Hunter buff. So right now, without the Kindred, it is still a very tanky front line, and the Wukong will do sufficient damage along with the Ashe, but Ashe doesn't push out as much damage as you like until there is a Hunter buff. So he's trying to figure out right now if he wants to keep the 4 Vanguards or the Hunter buff in, and I agree with his choice. I think that the 4 Vanguard at this early to mid game is just really rough for opponents to go through, and should be enough for the Ashe to push out enough damage.
Yeah, and he's going to hit into Treebeard. I mean, the Sejuani should be able to get that stun out early, but Silas, using that kind of mana reaver effect, going to be able to slow that down at least. And I mean, Treebeard has a pretty tanky board as well, but the target selection from the Ashe has been good, able to kill off the Katarina. Pretty fortunate for 1109 that did happen, and I think the Ashe might be able to just continue to carry through, especially with this chosen Wukong. So fortunate for 1109 that Ashe was able to take down the Katarina before that damage came into the backline. And 1109 is going to start to turn it around, maybe pick up a couple of wins. Like you said, leveling to 6 to get the Hunter buff would increase the odds of going on a win streak by quite a bit, but the econ is really tough.
Right, and then it's scary because there is still Hobos and Robin as well, which is on an insane win streak. So I haven't seen those 2 boards yet, but if it's something that is incredibly strong and... okay, so he's running 4 Keepers with Cultists. So this is definitely a scary board against 1109 if he does face against him, but we're going against Hobos, which is the other cultist member. Who is also on
Cultist
one streak.
once again just showing up in the Challenger Series qualifier. So incredibly good for the early game, and we've seen it time and time again. People who are starting Cultist are getting very deep into these games, making those top 4s, top 2s, even winning with Cultist or with a pivot from it. We saw it in the last game, I believe. Setsuko had at least some variation of Cultist and then did pivot away and won. So Robinsongz, 100 HP into stage 3, still there, beats the second strongest in the game handedly with Hobos. And this just looks like what Setsuko did in the previous game. I mean, it's a different comp. It's keeper cultist instead of just strictly cultist. But, you know, if Robin can continue with this, just keep his econ strong and then go into the late game, into the pivots with that economy. I mean, Robin should be able to get a top 2, maybe even a first.
Yeah, so we'll have to see if we keep up the trend of getting this early start and 100 HP equals to first win. But the other thing is that we say it like it's very simple, like play your strongest board, get 100 HP for 7 rounds and you'll be guaranteed top 4. But it's actually a lot harder than it seems, right? So one thing is that yes, hitting your cultist pike is just something that is a great advantage, but you still have to make sure you level correctly at the right timing so that you're not just simply relying on that one pike to play through the entire thing. So we're against 1109 right now, and this was actually closer than I thought it would be, with the Lulu standing up with only the Elise and the Kenning staying alive.
Yeah, we're going to head into the carousel once more. Robinsongz still 100 HP. We'll see what item he wants to pick up, but it's going to be, you know, kind of the scraps left over, the problem with winning. You know, you just don't get the first choice of what items you want. Just a tough life there at the top of the table with 100 HP.
Taking a look to see what he needs. He has a glove, a spat, and the cloak. The size, he has chain vests as... Okay, there we go. So I don't believe he has a bramble yet. He did build a Sunfire Cape immediately. So it seems like a dust pivot is the most likely. It just seems it's the easiest to go for usually when you are running cultist. However, if you do hit that Asher, the talent chosen, you always go for that route.
Yeah, we will see in that 4-1 if we get the 7 or and if the chosen is what he starts to look for. We do have him going to 7 even earlier than in previous games. I think Setsuko went on 3-7. Robin is going to go on 3-5 here, all the way up to 7. He isn't selling off his chosen yet. Of course, he wants to continue to win these rounds. We might see him try and econ back up and then sell his chosen on wolves and look for one of them.
Yeah, but going against Bertasaurus, who is also, I believe, level 7 as well. So we can see a lot of these players here trying to keep their win streak by going to level 7 extremely early. And Treebeard, even at the very bottom, went for the level 7. But paid off for Robinsongz here, I believe. But we'll have to see. The Garen is tanking up a lot of the damage, and then the Vayne is still pushing out. Yep, this is going to be the end for Robinsongz win streak.
Yeah, Bertasaurus actually being able to end the win streak. And so that hurts for Robin because his econ, he was trying to be able to build up that econ back for wolves up to 50 gold. And he's actually going to lose all of that win streak gold on his way back up. So really good win for Bertasaurus continuing on his win streak. But instead of Robin being able to go be at 40 gold this turn and then 50 gold on the next round, and then roll down once more for the chosen, he's still at 30 because he went up to 38. He found Riven and Cassiopeia though, so that is I don't know. It's still a pretty good spot for Robin because he did find some very good hits.
Definitely a beautiful shot for Robin. And to be honest, even though, yes, it was very sad for him to lose that streak, especially when you push to level 7, but Robin has had such a amazing lead over his competitors that he was probably already at 20, 30 gold above everyone else already. So him taking that loss there isn't detrimental by any means, and he'll take the win here. And as you saw, he did hit 2 ribbons already, so he's very close to the pivot that he needs.
He is extremely close to that Riven pivot. He's got, decent items. Doesn't have the Bramble, which he would probably want, but he does have a Sunfire Cape, which can go to the Riven. And Warwick in the shop. That is good for the Hunter compositions, but Not exactly what Robin is probably wanting here, unless he was to find, like an Ash Chosen or something along those lines, or maybe he could pivot there, but he doesn't really have great items for that circumstance either,
Yeah,
at least not
so
yet.
we're looking for in the chain rest to build that Bramble. A Rod would be really great for Robin right now, just because of the fact that he is going for. Oh, he hits another spat instead. So I was gonna say that he
Okay.
could have made a dust spat. However, now he could just go for a fawn. And another surprising part is that he hasn't sold his pike yet before his roll down. This is actually really surprising for me. He's keeping the assassin pike, but I would have sold the pike in order to look for a 4-cost chosen.
Yeah, I mean, no, this is very interesting. I agree with you. I mean, this is the assassin chosen. It doesn't seem like something he would value that highly. Of course, it can be good with the Talon to just get up to 4 assassin more easily, but overall, that's just not exactly the most common thing we'll see. Generally, that's going to be a sell on the pike, but maybe Robin is just valuing this pike's ability to help him win rounds right now and continuing to econ as he looks for the Riven before selling it and looking for a different chosen. But yeah, it is a little bit surprising that we are seeing that out of Robin. And some of these fights, I mean, they're not going his way anymore. We see Saint actually taking this one over Robin. Saint on a little bit of a win streak, I believe, leading into this. And there's a lot of items on Robin's bench. 2 gloves, a tier, a chain vest, none of it being played just yet. And he's finally going to even use the Nikos to get to that Riven too.
Yeah, right now, Robin's valuing the 6 cultists, which don't get me wrong, it's actually very, very strong. Like 6 cultists can keep you around for the entirety of stage 3 and then half of the stage 4. Does start losing his strength here, as we saw, but I would definitely have prioritized the 4-cost chosen, because if he had hit another, like a dust chosen Riven, as we saw in the last game, or a Cassiopeia or anything else, I would say that is stronger than the pike, and you might lose a couple of rounds looking for that chosen, but I would still think the pivot is valuable. But switching over here now to Saintvicious and Treebeard, who is running a Divine Brawler, probably going for an Ash or Talon comp against... yep, there's a Talon with really offensive items against Treebeard there, but gets taken down.
Yeah, full aggro items on the Talon, taken down by the Katarina. So it's a Katarina comp coming out of Treebeard, at least somewhat, right? It's got the items on the Katarina right now. In this stage of the game, but there is an Ash, so we could see the full kind of pivot in that direction. Could even see just both played for quite a while. I think Treebeard's just trying to stay afloat, just playing everything strong that he has, and we'll see what the comp ends up for Treebeard if he's able to hang on throughout the rest of this game, as the HP values are actually fairly close across the board in stage 4 here. Treebeard the lowest at 40, and then we go all the way to the top 4 and it's only 55. Once we get to the top of the table, the differentiation is a lot bigger with Robinsongz and Bertasaurus, but the rest of the lobby from 3 to 8th is pretty squished.
Yeah, and then we're hopping over here. So the Talon is doing really great with his offensive item. I'm scared without a defensive one, but it's just jumping around and pushing out damage. And Bertasaurus, I believe, is using a Teemo carry at the moment, but it has a Fawn on it, so it's not pushing out as much damage as we like. And I believe that was a 3-star Teemo as well.
Yeah.
So the Fawn is just there, like not something we can remake in the future.
Yeah, 2-item 3-star Teemo. I wonder if that was an accident, or if the Teemo was picked up off the carousel and it just made the fawn had to be made. I'm not sure exactly how the fawn ended up there, but it did end up on the Teemo, so that is unfortunate for Bertasaurus. Not going to be able to complete the items on that.
Most likely was already on the Teemo, but unfortunately he wasn't able to combine items in a way where he can knock out the third item. So that's just the Teemo itemization, is that it has a Luna's Echo, but it also has Faunting of the Dirt slot. And then also with this Talon here is that these are all really great items for Talon, but without the GA or a Hodge, it's a little scary because it's just relying on BT for the sustainability. Which, to be honest, BT isn't really enough as a sustainability, so you're just really hoping for the Talon to one-shot something squishier and just be able to jump through from there on. But if it gets stuck on any of the tanks, that'd be scary. But it does have the IE and then also the Last Whisper to help with any Vanguard opponents.
Yeah, we'll see if it can carry through. I know you mentioned, hey, Saint was going to force Talon, and well, there's a Talon for Saint this time, and he's doing quite well this game, in the top 3 of HP at the current time. Now, I did mention that 3 to 8th is pretty close, but this is also, we see Saint picking up wins, and the one loss that we did see from him recently was very close. And This time Talon is kind of on a frontliner, but it is an Elise, so he's able to get through that in time as he gets towards the back line and eventually takes down that Jhin. Enough lifesteal maybe at this point to continue through, as Jhin does finally do that fourth shot, but he is just a 1-star Jhin, and he is going to fall to the Talon. So Hobos going to take a bit of a hit there from Saint, as Treebeard has turned it around and is on a win streak. That is interesting to see, because I know his board looked kind of like a little bit of a mix of things, and I'm interested to what he's landed on that's letting him win right now.
Yeah, and then also really great positioning for saintvicious right here. Just by putting the talent in the middle, you have these other units aggroing on the left and the right side, so that no matter what, your talent's never targeted first. Because there are times where you have all your units on the left side and you put your talent slowly on the right, which after one unit, it goes for the talent, but not so much here. And we see the talent jump immediately onto the Morgana. Will it get to the Ashe quick enough, though?
I mean, Morgana gets the ulti off immediately, which is huge for 1109, and then the disarm. Ashe able to stay alive in the backline, pumping out all the damage, and the stun from Lux is just far too late. So 1109 going to end Saint's win streak a little bit prematurely. Saint still in a fairly comfortable position, though. I feel like his comp's good. Like you mentioned, I like the positioning as well, and I think he's in a good spot to ride out this game, potentially looking for that top 4, but it's still a very close lobby as we jump over to Treebeard, completing a Yone 2.
Yeah, so Yone 2 extremely strong. So the one thing is that he doesn't have the best items for the Ashe. He only has the GA, but with a Yone 2 of Deus Gloves already, and he could just slam another Deus Gloves potential on anyone, or if he gets a bow or a sword here, there we go. You can build the IE onto your he has good items. Never mind for that Ashe. You can build a Hodge and an IE, and you're set for your Ashe. Now you have 2 proper carries, and this is an extremely strong board for Treebeard right now.
Yeah, this looks great for Treebeard. You know, like you mentioned, you can go IE Ashe. You know, it's a tier 2 Ashe with pretty great items. I mean, near perfect. And then on top of that, you have the Thieves Gloves on Yone. So there's a lot of times where you can roll into something extremely powerful, but just in general, most items are good on the Yone. Probably very few that you really hate to see for that character. So even then, picking up Ezreal, which is giving
his
Elderwood. Oh,
there we go.
There we go. He's getting him on. The Ashe still going to be able to utilize those in this fight, and I think Treebeard is going to be able to easily take down Benva, but he's also got the Azir, and he's got the Ezreal giving Elderwood, and just the Ezreal in general being a strong unit. So many legendaries for Treebeard that he has hit. Tier 2 Zilean, Tier 2 Yone. I think Treebeard's very well positioned in this game.
Yeah, that was really great thinking by Treebeard. He saw that the other Zilean in shop, he has a Nico and bench, so he knows that he can get a tier 2 Zilean immediately. So there was really no need for the Cassiopeia anymore. So he opts out to sell both the Cassiopeia and the Riven, because without Cassiopeia, you're not running Dust anymore either. And to throw in the Azir, which will give you the tankiness that honestly does more than the Riven. So Treebeard right now with a 6 win streak and the Yone 2 and the Zilean 2, I would say this is looking like a first or second for him.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, Robin still at the top of the table, 73 HP. Might be the person that could contend. We haven't seen his board for a little while, and potentially with the economy he had early on, he could develop a composition that can rival what we see from Treebeard right now, but we see Treebeard against Saint, and the Talon is already down. We see that Yone still has plenty of HP, and so many of the units on Treebeard's board were ulted by Zilean there that there's pretty much no way for Saint to win that once the Talon died, and it's just going to be a matter of trying to hang on a little bit longer. You want to be dodging Treebeard, you want to be dodging Robinsongz right now, as they seem to be kind of the strongest in this lobby. As I say that, though, Robinsongz does drop a round.
One thing interesting for Saint's board is that he did hit a chosen Talon, so he had 2 Talon 2s. So saintvicious right now with his itemization was in a rough spot because they're all offensive, and so that Talon does go down really quickly depending on positioning. But otherwise, if he hits a Talon 3, that might be offensive enough to take down everyone. But Treebeard, as mentioned before, is in a really good spot. That Zilean and the GA on the Ashe is able to keep her alive much longer than she needs to take out the entire enemy's board.
Yeah, we see a little bit more of a pivot here. Going to be putting some items onto Warwick as well as the Ezreal. I think the next big upgrade that Treebeard can hit is the Ezreal 2. We'll see if he actually runs into that at any point, but already as an Ezreal 1, it is still quite powerful. Zillion ultimates just allowing the rest of the board to stay tanky and just provide that front line for Ashe. And 1109, most likely going down there. Yeah, absolutely going to go down to Treebeard. And I'm not sure if that's an 8th. Yeah, it looks like it is an 8th. And Benva going to go out in 7th in the same round. Setsuko, who got first in the last lobby, is down to 6 HP. Potentially going into round 5-4, going into this last carousel, or potentially last carousel for Setsuko at least, as he is so low.
Yeah, so taking a look at what Treebeard, he is going to be a last pick with Robinsongz here. He already has majority of the items that he need. The Ashe is capped out along with the Yone, so he opts for the Warmog just to make his front line a little bit more tankier than before.
Yeah, the Warmog, definitely something that could go for this Warwick, just make it a little bit beefier. Try and let it stay alive a little bit longer, get that ultimate off, try and get some regen, maybe find a fear, CC. But in general, just like you said, making that front line more beefy, as it's already quite strong with the Yone, with the Warwick, and just more than anything, the Zillion buffing up all of these units, letting them have basically just a bunch of extra Guardian Angels. So we'll see where this Warmogs ends up. My bet is going to be the Warwick, but it looks like it will just be the Lee Sin. Help that stay alive a little bit longer.
Yep, you're spreading out the tankiness a little bit more. And Lee Sin, honestly, he is a really strong unit in the fact that he doesn't have to do intense amount of damage, and he just is pushing. But Ezreal with a really good ult there.
Yeah, Ezreal hits everybody. The thing that was close here in this fight against Robin was that Cassiopeia hit the entire backline of Treebeard, but it still wasn't enough. Like, this fight still didn't even look close. Like, there was a stun on the entire team of Treebeard except for like 2 of the frontliners. And Robin's comp still couldn't push through enough damage. I mean, Treebeard is so strong right now. Hobos is the other one that's win streaking, as we see Setsuko does go down in 6th. And we do have, the top 5 here. Saint, Bertasaurus, Hobos, Treebeard, and Robinsongz. As we are going to take a look at Robinsongz' board, and he's got 6 Rivens. He's got a lot of gold as well. So Robin could look for that Riven 3, and maybe that can turn the tides, as he even finds a Yone 2 with the Thieves' Gloves. So, I mean, this is the player that we thought economy-wise could start to rival Treebeard in this game, as he goes up against Hobos, who is the other person on a win streak with Cultists. Once again, we always see Cultists rearing their ugly head within the Challenger Series. This is actually 9 Cultists.
Yeah, and what positioning by Robin as well. It's like, I will just have a front line. There's really no back carriers, as we see here. Lilia is really the only one who is range, and everyone else is frontliners. So 9 cultists. I'm surprised that Ho was mostly going to top 4 potentially. I mean, he was going on a win streak until he hit the Yone 2 Robins. But even then, 9 cultists in the late game, and Robin here running 4 Dusts and Vanguards along with it.
Yeah,
we're getting a Quicksilver here.
Quicksilver could be nice just for one of these frontliners, like the that the ultimate goes off. It could also just be good for the additional Riven, just to give the other carry some more power. But it's not the best item for Robin here, and it's certainly not the worst either. Feels like it can work out in this position, just to help mitigate some CC, obviously, as that is what that item does.
Yeah, and Robin, as we saw before, he was one of the players who had a 100-win streak for a very long time and a gold lead compared to everyone else. His is Sejuani 2 here, and he's mostly just going to roll for a Riven 3. He has 2 Riven 2s already, and he is at 65 gold. So it seems like he's not going to push for the level 9 because he has been losing here and there. So he's just going to roll it all down. He's missing only 2 Rivens right now. Will he find the remaining ones?
I mean, he's not really hitting quite yet. He's got 26 gold remaining. Quicksilver going to go on to the Cassiopeia. Makes sense. I didn't see that there was an item slot on that. That definitely seems like the best target for that. You want to make sure that you can get off that Cassiopeia ult and potentially get a second one. If you ever get a second one, I feel like those fights are going really well for you. Because Robin looks like will get a second one in this fight, and it's going to hit on quite a few targets. And yeah, this Riven is still so powerful. I think this board is really good for Robin, but finding that Riven 3 can be game-winning for Robin. Because right now he is strong, but he could be just absurdly strong with that Riven.
Yep, and I believe he just took down the ghost of Bertasaurus, who also actually just died this round with -1 HP. I'm surprised it actually lasted that long, just considering it was a team of 3, which is really powerful, but it was a team of 3 with a fawn. So taking a 5th here is not the worst case scenario for Bertasaurus. But Robin here, as mentioned before, really strong. Only needs 1 more Riven. Will he hit it? Not opting for those gens at all. Selling his other epics to make room. Keeps finding that gen that he does not need. If he hits that Riven 3, I believe this game is in the bag for Robin.
Yeah, I mean, the Riven 3 certainly at least makes him contend with Treebeard, but it might even be enough to just win. I mean, Treebeard going to 9, he's still so strong, but we do see the Cassio hitting onto the straight away. Once again, actually, casting twice in a row, the Ash goes down before doing really much of anything. And so the positioning of this fight really lended itself for Robin to find the win on it, but still, there is a Yone alive for Treebeard trying to fight against the Yone and the Riven of Robin. And I think that overall, Robin's still going to win with his carry surviving. That was all about positioning there, as the Ash was caught immediately by the Cassiopeia.
Yeah, the Cassiopeia was on the other side, and Ash was able to push out more damage. That could have been a complete different story. So right now, him and Treebeard is still a 50-50, I would say. But the second this Riven 3 gets hit, I don't know if Treebeard would be able to take him down, even with good positioning. And then Hobos still alive here. Saintvicious, unfortunately, was unable to find his talent 3, and gets taken out at 4th place.
Yeah, Saint going to go down in 4th, but a top 4 finish. That is a good, healthy amount of points going forward into this series tonight, as Hobos going to end up against Robinsongz. We see the Jin as the carry for this. This is that 9 cultist. I don't know if the Galio is doing enough against this Riven. We'll have to see if like a force shot can come out and actually do plenty, but there's so much tankiness, and the Aatrox pulling in the Jin just going to pretty much seal this away. The carry is just way too strong from Robin, and Hobo's going to take a big loss here. I think that's just going to take him out on round 6 here. Absolutely. And this is our top 2, Robinsongz and Treebeard. Treebeard once again making a top 2 finish. Didn't get the first last time. Might not be able to get the first this time either, depending on if this Riven is picked up, like you said. I don't know if that Riven, the Riven 3 is going to be beatable. But Treebeard still at this spot, I think if he can avoid the Cassiopeia stun on his Ash, still has the capacity to win these rounds.
The Jin keeps showing up, I just have to laugh because every single time he looks at it like he can make an upgrade, but he doesn't want the Jin.
Yeah, he sees the 2-star and a 4 cost. He's like, huh.
But I do have to give props to ILikeHoboes. Again and again, he plays more unconventional comps and is able to even top 3 with a 9 cultist comp, which I believe is the first time we have seen in a very long time for anyone to play 9 cultists. Usually 6 cultists transition into dust. But good for Hobos on that. But now we are back to Robinsongz and Treebeard, both with a Yone too, but it is a Dust comp versus a Ash comp.
Yeah, and the Ash and the Ezreal avoid the ultimate from Cassiopeia to lead this off. So now we're watching the Ash damage get stunned up by the Cassio, or not the Cassio, the Sejuani, as the Cassiopeia is still alive in the back line, but it's not quite getting to the Ash yet. So we still have that carry alive for Treebeard, as now it's working onto the Riven and will be able to take it down. So it's just all in the positioning. If Treebeard can dodge the Cassiopeia, it looks like he can win these fights. And if Robin is able to position this Cassiopeia to hit onto the proper targets, then he should be able to take this down. And still not hitting that Riven is so unfortunate for Robin.
And the other thing is that Robin has some items on his bench that he didn't put in the last fight. The sword isn't as detrimental, but the trap claw I think would have made a difference just because the Cassiopeia was able to ult 3 to 4 times. So just being able to stop the second Cassiopeia ult, so just immediately putting that trap claw onto the unit that the Cassiopeia is going to go against, I think would be really important. So sorry, not Cassiopeia, but for the opposing team like the Lee Sin or the Yone, just stopping the NMP would have helped.
This time, the stun from Cassio does hit Ezreal and Yone, but it doesn't get the Ash. But the Aatrox pulls in the Ash. That's massive. The Cassio gets the stun follow-up, and a lot of the damage isn't there for Treebeard. It's just the Ezreal in the back line, but still, it looks like the Riven went down, and just all of these 2-star legendaries are just overwhelming, as Treebeard takes another win, dropping Robin to 6, and Treebeard is in position to actually take this game. He gets a second in the previous, first in this one. He's doing exceptionally in this lobby so far, and right now, I mean, there's no hit on the Riven once again for Robin. But even with the 3-star Riven, the way the fights have been panning out, unless Robin can find a way to get the biggest Cassio ulti, I don't know if the 3-star Riven is actually enough. It's felt like the damage and just the constant pressure of these 2-starred legendaries from Treebeard is just too much, that even if the carry was stronger, I don't know if it's quite enough to still win the round.
Position is definitely going to be key here. Robin's going to have about 20 gold to roll down here. Hits a Lilia. Will he find the Riven here, which is really what he's counting on? Other than that, he is heavily reliant on positioning. At
Zillion
least he
too.
did hit Zillion 2 and the Lilia 2. Power Spikes for sure, but I would have said the Riven 3 would have been a much better hit compared to the 2 legendaries. Maybe not the Zillion 2. We'll see if the Zillion 2 is enough to make a difference. But right now, it's really the Cassiopeia positioning that we need to hit the Ezreal and the Ashe.
Yeah, and they're split now for Treebeard, so you're not going to be able to get both. But still, trying to get at least one or just get a really beefy stun is going to be good, but he gets neither. Treebeard with great positioning, going to have both of his carries available on the side, dealing all the damage they need to, and the Yone is putting out a ton of pressure as well. That's a great pull from the Aatrox onto the Ashe, but she's not taking any further damage, and already the carries of Robinsongz are down, and Treebeard is just going to take this lobby. He's going to grab first.
An amazing win by Treebeard here, performing very consistently well. I believe he went second place in the first game and then now getting first place. So we'll go to scores very shortly, but I believe Treebeard is in the running and maybe we'll have another Spencer here, ending the whole series with just 4 games. So we'll take a look at that very shortly. But Robin also putting a really great fight with the Dust. Unfortunate that he didn't hit the Riven, but with some position outplays, they were able to come up for the top 2 and Treebeard taking the lead.
Yeah, I think Robin played that one great. Of course, Treebeard is in that position, similar to what Spencer was in yesterday, or sorry, not yesterday, a week ago, where Spencer actually went third, and then ended up taking the win. But Treebeard second, first, and we'll see if he can actually get enough points to set himself up to try and end the lobby. Actually, Treebeard is the only player with enough points to make it to 24 in this next game. Setsuko at 13, even with a first place, cannot get to 24 points. So Treebeard only needing a 4th to set himself up to have a lobby where he's the only player that can actually end the night by getting a first in it.
And with how well Treebeard has been playing, top 4 is very possible for him. It's nothing crazy. And otherwise, every other player, Setsuko, Bertasaurus, Robinsongz, will definitely be keeping an eye on Treebeard and what combos he's going to try to stop him from getting that top 4, to slow him down from being able to achieve that first place win. We will be going into a 5 minutes break, but we'll be returning shortly into Game 3. Hello and welcome back to the Challenger series. We're heading into game 3 now. So some really exciting matches so far. We have Treebeard dominating with first and second places and close behind him as well in the scoreboard. Casso, you said before that you were a little biased towards Treebeard. So are you just extremely hyped or are you looking at some of the underdogs right now?
Look, I'm hyped. I'm hyped for my boy. I'm really excited that Treebeard is doing so well. Someone that I have played and competed against in multiple games, multiple titles prior to this. And so the fact is I feel like Treebeard always picks up a new game. He plays near the top level. He's always playing really, really well. But historically, I've never seen Treebeard really break into maybe the professional scene as heavily. And maybe TFT is the time for Treebeard. It is the time for him to shine. And I think that he's done exceptionally so far in the game. And now that there are a bit more tournaments, bigger tournaments coming up, I would be really excited to see Treebeard appearing in them. And well, this is one way to get there, right? Of course, this is the road to the qualifiers. So having this performance from Treebeard is awesome to see, and I'm really happy for him. I think I would love to see continued success out of it.
Yeah, things are definitely going to his favor right now. And surprisingly enough, he is the only player right now that is eligible to get the 24 points and make him the first person to hit that requirement of if he gets a first place in the fourth game, then he's able to win. So he needs at least a fourth place in order to get that requirement. Yep. But the question is that will he just simply settle for fourth place and play it safe? Or is he always going to gun for that first place? You want to rack up that much points because in case you can't hit that first place later on, if you're racking up enough points now, you can win off of the second win condition, which is the 40 points mark.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, Treebeard, the way he's been playing, I actually feel like Treebeard's mostly been playing for top fours. It doesn't necessarily feel like he's doing anything risky that's like a first or eighth strategy. It's just playing really consistent, really solid, playing for a very strong board whenever he can, and then just starting to stack up his composition for that late game, trying to get that top four. And 2 times in a row, he's kind of ended up with a good amount of legendary units that he's been able to upgrade. And his compositions have looked really solid in the late game, just getting potentially some high rolls to help turn these, what are probably top fours into becoming firsts and seconds. So I think the way he's playing, I think Treebeard should be able to consistently hit a top four in this lobby, at least the ways things have been going. And I'd expect to see him potentially grab that 24 points in this game 3 and go into game 4 looking for the finish.
Yeah, and that's a really great way to describe him. Consistent is one word. So something we have seen in first and second game, there's Setsuko who had a 100 win streak, and then second game it was Robinsongz with a 100 win streak. And with that amount of gold lead, and Aussie with these players playing a really great early game in order to keep that up, that amount of advantage does land them into the top 2, like guarantee. But Treebeard, someone who has not been able to consistently get the 100% win streak, is someone who still econs very consistently and plays through where he doesn't just roll out all his gold in a panic, and he is able to still contest someone like Robinsongz who had a 30-40 gold lead above him in the beginning rounds. So jumping into game 3 now, we'll have to see if Treebeard is able to get the top 4 to hit that 24-point mark, or if another player will kind of take that lead over.
Yeah, we're going to jump and start with Hobos, who has also been a player who's been contending for these top spots in these lobbies. And you mentioned before, Hobos likes to play some non-traditional stuff. We actually saw 9 cultists out of Hobos in the previous game. So I do love to see how he plays a lot of these late games, especially since he tends to have boards that look very different than the rest of the lobby.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely looking forward to his composition. Just as you mentioned before, it's different from everyone else. It's not your standard Ashe and Talon. And granted, Hobos is a player that if he does hit it, he will play it. But otherwise, he does try to go for something more unique. And we have seen him consistently play Cultist a lot more. So I'm curious to see if that is just his normal playing style, where on the leaderboard, he just runs Cultist normally. Or no, only in this tournament setting, he's just simply playing what is given to him and his strongest board.
Yeah, and it seems like most players lean towards the latter, like looking what is given and trying to play that board. We haven't, had a lot of players that it seems like are forcing too heavily. I know there was the meme about saintvicious wanting to force Talon, but in game 1 he didn't force it, and in game 2, yes, he did go to Talon, but it did seem like he was hitting, he was finding a lot of the things that he needed for that. So it will be curious to see if maybe Saint goes to Talon again and that leans towards that style, whereas most of the players, it feels like, are just playing what they're given. And here Hobos is given some sharpshooters with the chosen sharpshooter Vayne alongside a potential Guardian Angel to be built very early on.
Yeah, something we have noticed in the past too, like a Vayne 2 is decent, especially with a sharpshooter buff. However, the one thing is that if you don't have any offensive items on her, then it could very well be too weak just because of the fact that you're not pushing enough damage. Unlike the last game that we saw, this does have the sharpshooter trait and not just a plain Vayne 2. So it hopefully is enough that just the sword, or if he hits a glove here and he's able to slam IE, then that should be a very much smoother, stronger board for him.
Yeah, and Hobos actually has potential to put in a at least decent front line for the early PvP rounds. He has the Tahm Kench and the Maokai, so that brawler buff and the early Tahm Kench can still be at least fairly powerful to give time for this Vayne to deal plenty of damage. And we'll see what he rolls into on this this next shop as well to see how he can round out that early composition. This another Vayne, so not nothing too incredibly strong. It looks like it'll just be GA and then playing either Vanguards or Brawlers.
Yep, and then the Rod is probably saved with a GA. It's a really good pathing for the talent Ash, as we always mention. But with the Rod as well, you can also build Morelos for your Morgana.
Yeah, could be good to do. Just gonna actually slam that rod to give a little bit of extra damage to this Vayne in the early stages, which pretty much reads as wanting to sell this Vayne fairly early on, just using it for the early power.
Going against saintvicious here, who did hit a cultist TF here, but will it be enough against the sharpshooter Vayne?
I think so. I mean, it seems like this Vayne, even with the Guardian Angel, should fall to the early wild cards. Galio helping to put that pressure out. The Vayne does get these bounces, but yeah, it shouldn't quite be enough. It's still fairly close, but Cultist does kind of reign supreme in the early game a lot of the time. Now, we've seen that be a little bit contrary in a couple of the rounds earlier today, but still, I think generally Cultist is going to be one of the best compositions or best synergies for you to find in the first couple rounds.
I think that if Hobos had leveled up there, or if he had a tier 2 Vanguard unit, he mostly would have won there because he was very close in killing off the TF. However, the issue is that the Vanguard were all level 1, and so they just got destroyed very quickly, leaving it just the Vayne going into a 1v3. But jumping over here now to saintvicious, who is running the Cultist, which is a really strong start for him. And he does level to hopefully keep his win streak.
Yep, going to level up, look for the win streak even further. Annie is still a pretty powerful unit early on. Not quite to the mage synergy yet, which can help her out a lot with the big shields that she does get. But this is going to give some more tankiness across the board for saintvicious. Is this it's a chosen Yasuo? You know, I hinted at some duelist earlier with the Xin Zhao buffs. Maybe we see it out of Benva here. I would be excited to see some duelist. I think it's a really fun composition. It's really cool to watch, and it's been quite a while since I've seen it played, at least regularly.
I'm actually really surprised with that. So duelist is definitely a composition that can land in the top 4, and we have not. This is going to be our first duelist if he does stick with the pathing and the Challenger series. And also with saintvicious here, one thing that I found interesting was he had quite the dilemma of whether or not he should have put in the Nami over the TF2. Just because of the fact that prior to that, he could have ran 3 mages with the Annie, but since he lost that round anyways and he hit the drive-in, this is definitely a stronger board to run the 3 cultists and the 2 keeper. It has enough damage and it's also much tankier than before.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about this like same composition in one of the previous lobbies, having that key being so powerful in the early game when we see this shield. I mean, it's a massive shield for these frontliners to help buy even more time. And then once, you know, this front line is dealt with, you get a new front line with the Galio to come down and help protect these Twisted Fates in the back as well. So that is, you know, this composition, very, very strong for saintvicious, should help him get a lot of early wins. And we see him pick up the Jinx. We actually joked about Saint being a Jinx one trick last week. And, you know, maybe we'll see him go back to his roots and play some more Jinx, play some Fortune.
I'm surprised he wasn't tempted by just throwing in the Tahm Kench as well. Granted, because you have such a strong board, you're probably not going to switch over, but it doesn't hurt to keep the Tahm Kench and the Jinx on your bench just in case you want to opt for that option.
Yeah, it absolutely can be good, especially if he starts losing at some point. He can then just throw in the Fortune when he has the opportunity to get a little bit stronger and potentially go for that extra gold. But I do think that saintvicious should be strong enough that the Fortune option doesn't make a lot of sense. He should be just looking to continue the win streak, and we'll probably see him sell off this Jinx if it can make him gold at some point in this game.
Yep, and then he picks up the giant spell here, so we'll see if he saves that for Morels in the future, or he's only to just slam that Zizirot immediately just to keep up with his win streak, because it is on a Jarvan.
Ooh.
Oh, yep, and he hits a Jarvan too, so that could be a Jarvan 2 of a Zizirot, but honestly, he might not even need to slam the Zizirot with such a strong lead. But he
Yeah,
puts it down anyways for the strongest board.
I kind of like this though. I kind of like slamming the ZZ Rod. I think it's such a powerful item. And then in the early game, I mean, we talked about the tankiness of this comp, right? We talked about the keeper. We talked about how, you know, once the keepers go down, you get the Galio, but now you also get the ZZ Rot minion coming out. And Jarvan himself, you know, tier 2 Jarvan, that's so strong to have early on in this game. And even though we see Saint at level 4, I think it's still fairly winnable for him going up against even people like Treebeard, who this board looks incredibly tanky.
Yeah, I mean, Jarvan 2, the other thing that is great about it, besides the fact that he is a keeper who is really tanky for the initial early game, is that he is able to jump onto your backliner. So if you run a comp like this one where most of your units are frontline except for one squish here in the backline, the Jarvan's able to immediately go there and pretty much just destroy that unit that was doing majority of the damage.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Saint in a pretty good spot in this game. Looking at this win streak, now we have Bertasaurus still at 100. It's too early on for me to kind of make that 100 call of Bertasaurus looking like he's going to be, you know, winning anything. But when we'll check back in around like 3-5, if he's still at 100, then, you know, it's like, okay, like this is kind of similar to the last two games. But we're going to jump over to 1109, who's got the Chosen Zed, actually, which is still another very strong early game unit. But 1109 hasn't really been finding the wins with it, dropping down to 84 HP already. Looks like he will be able to win this round, however, even though that is a tier 3 Diana from the Moonlight synergy.
Yeah, I see that he's picking up multiple sets as well. I highly doubt it, but maybe just because we have seen some unconventional comps in these Challenger series. But never mind, there's the Talon. Forget about those Zeds that I was talking about. We will not be playing anything close to Z3s in this game, and it will be a Talon game, most likely.
2-7 Talon. I mean, we had, I believe it was like a 2-7, 2-6 Ashe in the previous game as well. So, you know, if you hit it early, you want to definitely be playing that. There are the Assassins available to potentially put in as well with the Akali, but that is also a Ninja, and you do have this Chosen Zed in, so probably not going to be playing that straight away.
I won't lie, I was actually really excited for this comp, just seeing him hold all those ninjas before, but he hit the Talon now, so...
Yeah, he just keeps finding more ninjas too. Like another Ken in there. Yeah, I really love the ninja comp, but it is so hard to actually hit it. If that Talon had just been a Shen, the dream would have been completed. We would have seen 1109 playing ninjas. It would have been, you know, I would have loved to see that. It is a favorite comp of mine, but it is very hard to actually, you know, pull off because you do kind of need to hit it early. But, you know, we are going to see instead the Talon and all the ninjas are going to go away so that 1109 can properly econ and scale into this Talon composition.
That's a slice for me. Don't get me wrong. Like, hype for him. Hitting that Talon there is a super hype moment, and I can't wait to see that Talon destroy in the later games. But as of right now, I will miss that Ninja comp of what it could have been. And granted, Ninja is not really strong in the meta right now, but exactly why I'm curious to have seen how it would have done against Ashe or other Talon comps. But we'll see here how he's keeping his Talon on bay right now, because the Z2 right now with the Hodge, he still believes it's a stronger unit. And he will take a loss here, though, against Benva.
Yeah, we'll lose this round. So the win streak that was starting for 1109 is going to swiftly end, and Benva is going to be the highest HP here. No one maintaining 100 HP going into stage 3. So no early call from Casanova with the 100 HP player going to a top 2. But we do have a couple of players that are still very healthy in Saint, Benva, and Bertasaurus. Benva, the one on the current winning streak.
To be honest, it was a lot more common than expected, having so many games in the Challenger Series so far where a player has just dominated the early to mid game, even where they were at 100 HP all the way to the third carousel, I believe. And so just having that lead definitely leads to some early calls by us saying, like, it's a guaranteed top 2. But this seems a little bit more even, where you take a couple losses, but you still have a few players who are on a win streak. Not with like a 20-30 gold lead as prior.
Exactly, yeah. And so this will be a much tougher game to kind of call the expected outcome early on, because there isn't that massive economy lead. There will be small econ leads, across the board, especially with some of these players that have higher HP and start to continue a win streak at this point forward. They'll still be able to have a bit more econ, but right now, even some of these players who have been losing a lot have decent economies. We see Setsuko with 50 gold, which is, a bit more than some of these other players. 1109, also 50 gold. And okay,
Hello?
Okay, 1109. That is a second Talon. If he hits one more in the next couple of rounds, I mean, that is just absolutely terrifying. Especially because we're not even really that close to the level 7s yet. I mean, we're a couple rounds away from stage 4-1.
I would definitely rage if I was level 5 and I see someone hit a talent too. So I'm glad that it's just only 2 talents. We're still an insane amount of talents for this early part of the game. But one thing is that 1109 is a little bit in a scary spot just because of the fact that he has been taking a lot of damage. So sure, these talents look great and we're cheering him on saying, oh geez, like that's amazing. He probably has top 4. But if he keeps taking damage like that and later on he doesn't have enough gold or is unable to hit that talent too, which he's looking more likely to, but if he takes too much damage in the early to mid game, that would just be a little bit too detrimental for him, that even though he'll get his power spike earlier than others, it might not be enough just because of how much damage he's taking now.
Yeah, I mean, and he's taking even more, loses yet another round. This is a 3-loss streak. I mean, yes, the economy is fine. He's at 50 gold. He's been at 50 gold last 2 rounds, but already down to 61 HP. The only person lower than him is Hobos. Wow, down to 53 on 3-4. Very, very low for this lobby when we look at the average HP. And so the 2 of them are just really struggling here.
Yeah, and surprisingly enough, the players with the lowest health are the players who hit a Ashe and or a Talon at level 5 or 6. So we'll have to see if they, just because they hit those carries so early, would they be able to get the mid-game power spike much better than others? Because they just have to roll less, hopefully, on 4-1 to hit that tier 2 Asher Talon. However, at this moment, they are taking a lot more damage than others.
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely have. So we're going to really need to keep our eyes out on that 4-1 to see, hey, are they going to be able to hit their tier 2 of the unit that they found early? Like, are we going to get that one more talent for 1109? Is he going to find that right away and have that extra gold to then fill out the comp and set himself up to just win streak leading into the late game, pretty much taking the whole mid game as win streaks? I mean, that's what 1109 needs. He really needs to find that talent hit very quickly so that the rest of the comp can come together.
Right, and that shouldn't be too hard for him. So he will be going into stage 4-1 with about 50 gold and close to level 7 as well. And so that should be fairly easy for him to hit the talent. But the question is, will other players during that roll down hit their chosen talent as well, leading it into the same power spike that he will get?
Yeah, and 1109 not even going to be able to beat Hobos, the GA on the Kindred, going to be enough. So Hobos, the very last in the lobby with a pretty abysmal board himself, has leveled to 7 here and was able to take down 1109. Now they're both pretty much at parity, 53 versus 54 HP. And that's a 3-5-7. Once again, we saw it in the last game as well.
So Hobos there ended up pushing for level 7 just because he wanted to stop taking so much health damages and decided to just push for it and hopefully find his Ashe and is able to not go down to 40 HP. Versus 1109 with his 2 talents, he's relaxing. He's like, you know what? I'm close. I don't mind taking these losses here. I can go down to 40 HP because I'm most likely hitting that talent. But jumping over here to Setsuko, who is sitting at 75 HP at 5th place, he is running Moonlight, which is a comp that we haven't seen tonight yet.
Yeah, we did see an early game Moonlight for a little bit with the Silas that was really dominant. I actually might have been, was that Setsuko in game 1? I'm trying to remember exactly who it was, but someone had a Moonlight in game 1 that went on a big win streak and was able to scale it into the late game.
Setsuko, yes.
And we do see Setsuko playing it once again here. This time a little different, to a different tune though. It's the Diana instead of the Silas this time. That is going to be kind of the main carry. We also have that Lysandra providing a bit more AoE damage. But yeah, Setsuko having another good early game start, this time not so dominant, but this composition should allow Setsuko to scale for a little while as this game continues. And there was, the rumblings of Moonlight commits, but I'm not sure if we're in that situation here for Setsuko. I think it doesn't quite look the same. It looks like a little bit more rolling towards that than I think we're expecting to see. Maybe so, actually. He is rolling.
So the thing is like Setsuko last time hit a Aphelios chosen, and so his pathing was actually Hunter, and he did transition out of the Silas eventually. He went for the 4 Hunter rather than a Moonlight carry per se, but in this case scenario, he's committed. There is no pivoting, right, to a 4 Hunters route, just because of the fact that your carry right now is actually going to be Diana. He already put the Hexblade, Titan's Resolve, and the Quicksilver. He is rolling to make sure that he can hit the 3-star Lysandra as well, so that can be a 4-star Diana.
Yeah, and he's very close. 2 Lysandras away, theoretically 1 if you want to use the Nikos to get there, which is possible because you do want to just hit that as quick as possible and then start to scale further. So we may see Setsuko just find that 1 Lysandra and slam the Nico.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this comp would do, just because of the fact that Talon being the primary assassin comp lately, no one has really played Diana as much. But if you do hit it early and you're able to, I mean, he did hit the Moonlight Diana right from the start. So we'll have to see. But he does go against the 1109, which we have talked about in the past, who had the 2 talents already and is able to hit the Talon too.
Yeah, the fact that he did find that is massive, and that Sejuani stun really sealing.
Oh no.
Really sealing the deal there, Setsuko. He had the mana on the Diana to actually get that Pale Cascade to keep her alive, but it just wouldn't go off in time. And that is really unfortunate. You truly hate to see that if you are Setsuko.
Yeah, you don't normally want to hit your Diana like after the last neutral round. So just because of the fact that he hasn't hit the 4-star Diana and he's still missing the 2 Lysandra for it, it's pretty sad because by now you want to be level 6. You want to put in more assassins. But that is something that he has to keep waiting on. He doesn't want to go under 50 gold. He doesn't want to keep rolling for it. But eventually, soon enough, he's going to have to do his roll down, I believe. Or he just pushes forward to level 6 and waits to hit that Lysandra at level 6 instead.
Yeah, I mean, the good news for Setsuko is he does have that Nico. So he is just 1 away. I think there's no way at this point that he would continue to wait. I think it is just going to find that 1 Lysandra, slam the Nikos, get there so that you do have that 4-star Diana on board trying to continue to carry. As once again, she's going to get stunned with enough mana to cast Pale Cascade. And poor Setsuko is going to just lose another one, this time against Treebeard, dropping a lot of HP after such a big win streak was starting. And then all that momentum disappeared and so much gold has been rolled away, not hitting that Lysandra.
Yeah, that's the scary part is that the more stages you wait, especially in stage 4 where most people are doing their roll downs, is usually where every stage becomes too late. So yes, he might hit his power spike now, but by 4-3, a lot of these players are already at their power spike. So we'll have to see how he does here. He's still not hitting his Lysandra and he's rolling down and hoping. He's using his Nico.
It's a tragedy.
Oh no. This is sad to see. Level 5.
It's going to
Diana
find 3 before the Diana.
Going against saintvicious here, who is still running his cultist. Will it be enough?
I mean, this is just brutal for Setsuko.
Yeah.
This is really, really tough. I mean, the Diana is still, very powerful, but you need the 4-star at this point in the game. Like you mentioned, it's already kind of been outscaled. And so we're just not seeing it actually get anything done. And Setsuko just hemorrhaging HP as these rounds continue on. I mean, there are a couple of players below him in the HP values, but they've likely, spent a lot of gold and rolled down. I mean, they're all on 7. He's the last one here at 5, just trying to make this Moonlight composition work. And, Treebeard, 1109, Hobos are all below them in HP, but they have that level 7. They're starting to work towards their final compositions.
Yeah, and the saddest part too is that one thing we've been noticing for the Diana is that even with the Quicksilver against the Sejuani or other units, just because of how tanky they are, eventually the CC will get to the Diana. So we have seen that the Diana gets stunned multiple times, even with the Quicksilver, and is unable to push out the damage or be the carry she truly should be for this composition. So rolling down once again, praying for him to hit that Lysandra. It goes for the assassin spec because he is level 5. He's going to want to push for 4 assassins. Is transitioning into the 4 assassins. Is unable to find any Lysandras yet. Is finding his
Oh, there we go.
Quick Nico.
Finally.
But is this enough? I mean, it is 4 assassins. He is hitting at least his 4 stars. He will be pushing for 6 assassins instead. But
Actually,
is that enough of a power spike?
Finds the 6th assassin that he wants with that Akali. But yeah, I mean the 4-star Diana, I mean, maybe it is a massive power spike for Setsuko, right? This is going to be close to hitting that 6 assassins. You've got the 4-star Diana, you've got great items for it. So, I mean, you're there. This is what you wanted the whole time. It's just a matter of, is it enough? Like, usually you want to hit this earlier, then you can win streak, have really high HP, and potentially just outlive some people while they outscale you. And this has not exactly been that for Setsuko, but he will be able to go 6 assassin. He's got the Moonlight, he's got that 4-star Diana, and we'll see if Setsuko can actually hold on.
And jumping over to Treebeard now, who is running Adapta, and no main carry yet that we see. He has blue buffs onto the Yone, and then he has the Bramble. Probably just going to put it onto his Riven and just go for the Dust build, because we don't see any IEs, or we have the GA item, but no offensive items for your normal Ashe or Talon builds. So immediately slams them onto the Riven. And we'll see if Treebeard is able to win here, because Treebeard needs the top 4 in order to get the 24 points. He was in the lead against everyone else, but right now he's sitting at 8th place, so he's in a dangerous spot.
Yeah, absolutely. But Treebeard finds the Yone once again, which is one of the units that he's used pretty effectively in the previous couple of games, but he doesn't have it as a tier 2 just yet, as we've seen it so many times for him. And he's still losing rounds down on pretty much no gold, 25 HP. He needed that top 4, but this lobby isn't looking exactly great for Treebeard. He does hit the Morgana 2. That will certainly help, but he really needs the Riven 2, and potentially even the Yone 2 to really stabilize this and secure himself a top 4 finish.
Yeah, and these items are actually kind of rough. So looking at it, these are not bad items, but when you start off the game with just a lot of blue buffs, you're not really pushing out a lot of damage. And so you can see that Treebeard is taking a lot of the hits. You definitely need some offensive items right now to help him out. So we're hoping for some sword or gloves here. We hit a sword, and then we hit
2 swords.
2 swords. So, a Death Blade is something that, I mean, you put it on, but do you truly love it right now? Or do you even maybe look for a Talon, and then you can make Assassin Yone instead? But he rolls it all down on level 7 instead, just because he wants to try to go for top 4. He's definitely not going for any first place, going for 8. Transitioning straight into a 2-4 Adept build. Makes the Assassin Yone. Or sorry, not Assassin Yone, the Divine Yone.
Yeah, making the Divine Yone and hoping that this tier 1 Riven can do enough damage. I mean, potentially with the Morgana upgrade, there are some people that Treebeard can beat. Wow, even actually potentially beating Saint. This looked like it was going really bad, but the Riven still just alive, cranking out damage. Maybe she can take down this Galio. He's pretty beefy, though. This is that 6 cultist Galio against a 1-star Riven. And I don't know if she's quite going to be able to do enough. Yeah, the Galio going to take her down, and Treebeard dropping very, very low at this point, down to 19 HP. Lowest in the lobby. Not much gold. He's got to get very lucky in these upcoming shops to actually be able to bring this back.
I mean, even then, I'm not quite sure if it will be enough. I mean, he has the Ashe, but what items do you really have for the Ashe, right? You have a sword. And that's kind of your only offensive item there, right? Like a Bramble is a offensive defensive item for your front line, but not a Ashe item whatsoever. And he also rolled out all his gold, so he can't really hope to hit that Yone too. He doesn't have a Nico and bench, and it's just a 1% chance. So as you mentioned, you have to get extremely lucky, but that's still not something you can reliably count on. So he's going against Setsuko now, who is a 6 assassin, and
yeah, I mean the Diana's monstrous at this point, going to be able to easily take down Treebeard here, and that's going to be a lot more of the HP disappearing down to 10. Probably only has 1 loss left in him before he's going to be out of here in an 8th, which, you know, Treebeard is in a position that if he tanks an 8th here, he's still okay to make it to 24 points in the next game. It will just mean that nobody in the lobby is able to finish it in game 4.
There was definitely a lot of pressure, right? If you know that you only need top 4 in this game to go to the next, there's definitely some kind of effect on your mentality. And you can also see that maybe Treebeard would not have rolled it all the way down like this unless he knew that top 4 was all he needed, right? Because he wants to play a little bit safer and go for that power spike to hopefully keep it enough so that he can go for the 4th place. Versus in other means, if he didn't have that information, maybe he would have econ longer and tried to go for the 1st place victory instead.
Yeah, it is very possible he would have played it different. Did look like he was absolutely scrambling to put together a strong enough board to just hang on a little bit longer, and doesn't seem like that is going to pay off. This is an Ash for Hobos in the back line with some great items. Big knock up from the Yone, but there is just not enough damage coming out from Treebeard's composition just yet. The Riven's still alive, can still do quite a bit, but the Ash in the back still cranking out all the
Oh
damage for
no.
Hobos. And Treebeard is going to get an 8th in this one, so no one will be reaching 24 points going into the 4th lobby. No one going to be setting themselves up for a 1st place to win in game 4. So we will at least, at the bare minimum, be getting 5 games of TFT tonight.
There's going to be a lot of close games in the next 2 lobbies. The next lobby, we're going to see a lot of players aiming or being very close to the 24 points threshold. And the game after that, who will take the 1st place to take home the prize? But yeah, so taking a look now into Robinsongz, he is currently running a 6 cultist comp. So we have seen in the past that a lot of players have kept the 6 cultists all the way to stage 5 and 6. And we have seen Hobos go actually for 9 cultists, which I think scouting there, we have another player who has 7 cultists right now. So curious to see if they go for their path again, or if they all decide to transition into the Dust Ribbon comp as well. But looking at the itemization right now, Morelos, Blue Bluff, and the Death Cap using the Jinx as the main carry for now.
Yeah, that's a level 9 for saintvicious. And the Pike 2 being picked up as well. Setsuko has not lost since hitting that Diana. Still at 48 HP. You see him actually getting up to level 8 as well.
Yeah, and Robinsong's still running the cultist Pike. So again, another player, and we have seen this before, where you don't sell your cultist Pike just because of the fact that you want to keep your 6 cultists. And I believe Robinsongz was the player who did this last time as well. He didn't sell his cultist Pike in order to look for a 4-cost chosen. Instead, he kept it all the way to late game, and it didn't work out for him to a certain degree. He landed off with 2nd place in the last game, and we see him running it back once more with that Pike.
Yeah. I mean, it worked great in the previous game. Yes, he couldn't beat Treebeard at the end of the day when he had all of those 2-star legendary units, but Robin still was able to land a very good position with these cultists, with that cultist Pike, and like you said, once again, keeping this similar board. This time with a featuring Jinx with a lot of items, being able to set up even more crowd control. And I mean, Robin is in a very good spot once again. He's at 57 HP. He's near the top of the lobby. A lot of players are going to start dropping like flies here. Hobos, Bertasaurus, 1109, all extremely low. And Setsuko is basically unbeatable by most players in the lobby for now, for a little while longer. So it does feel like a lot of these lower HP players are going to be dropping very soon. And we'll see how Robin can stack up against the Diana. I'm not sure if he's quite to the point he needs to be beating this, as that Diana does just run through the backline and just completely destroy everything. The Riven maybe not able to do quite enough. There is a good amount of CC onto the Diana, but it's not chaining with itself quite yet. So we are going to see that Diana just get far too tanky with those Pale Cascades, and going to be able to take down Robin, but still a fairly close fight. Just the Diana is a bit too strong still, and Robin needs to scale up a little bit more before he's able to beat that.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited for Setsuko's comp. So one thing is that he did hit his Lysandra 3 pretty late in the game, and we were worried that because his power spike was so slow that he would have troubles in the future. But that Diana is pushing through all these Dust comps and Cultist comp. But then again, Cultist is a composition that tends to be weaker towards the later game, especially since he's relying on this Jinx 2 carry in a cultist comp. So we'll have to see what Robin does. He does have 40 gold, leaning towards about 50 gold after this round, and we'll have to see if he rolls down to transition into a Dust once again. So here's his roll down, picks up the Cassiopeia, gets a Lilia here. Doesn't want the Shen this time. it's not really hitting the units he wants. Granted, he does have a lot of gold on his bench, so he can still sell a couple more, but not hitting the Ribbon 2.
There it
There
is.
we
Okay.
go.
Ribbon 2 picked up. That is massive for Robin. On the side, we did note that a Lilia 2 was picked up by Saintvicious. That was recently buffed, I believe. So that is going to be a nice pickup for him as well. And we will see Saint's board, actually. He's also playing, he's playing Cultist. Once again, we're seeing even more Cultist all over the place. We're seeing Cultist in these past 2 weeks. And I believe that's 9 Cultist for Saint as well. So he's completely committed to it.
Will the 9 Cultist player be the 6 Cultist player who is running the Ribbon? I believe that the 9 Cultist player will win here.
Yeah, that Galio just way too strong for the Ribbon at this point. I mean, it will be interesting to see if Saint can hold on even longer. 9 Cultist even potentially get like a top 2. Setsuko against all these Cultist players, I feel like the Ashe, if there's a composition with Ashe and a bunch more CC, she has a better opportunity to actually just burn down that Diana. Whereas a lot of these Cultist comps, I think a lot of the damage is a little bit slower, but there is a fair bit of CC. So I'm curious to see if these Cultist comps can actually even beat the Diana at any point, or if Setsuko is just going to march to the finish line with the first place.
Yep, and then jumping over to Saintvicious now. So a player that joked about memeing for just only talent in this competition, but is playing very versatile and is working for him here. So he did win the last round. He is in a very awkward spot with the 21 HP, right? Like it could go either way depending on how weak 1109 is towards the bottom. But 9 Cultists coming down, going against Setsuko here with the Diana. Diana gets pulled by the Aatrox, the other units get pulled by the Aatrox, and
okay.
Yep, that's it.
So my question has been answered. 9 Cultists actually is outscaling the Diana. So their Saint is able to beat Setsuko. So it looks like it will not be able to just march to the first place finish. It looks like some of these other comps can still beat it in the late game. I wasn't certain about the 9 Cultists, but there was plenty of crowd control. There was enough. The Galio does a lot of damage. The Jin still able to do enough with the 4th shot to combine with that crowd control. And 9 Cultists actually able to take down the Diana. So we have seen it start to get outscaled, but granted, much later than I expected, and I think Setsuko is still going to be rolling in with an easy top 4, potentially even top 2, but 30 HP isn't a big enough of a buffer for me to confidently be like, oh, it's a top 2.
Yep, and then one thing I love too is that this is a TF from stage 1 of the game. Like he's running Mage. Lilia is doing a lot of work with the Mage spat, or sorry, not Mage spat, the Mage Chosen. Able to stun twice in a row, keeping all the units sleeping, and TF pushing out damage in the backline. It is a talent though, which is really good against this composition, especially when you're relying on those mages in the backline. But it seems like it's not enough. The Jin stayed alive, and that's a win for
it's the Galio. The Galio just topping damage every time. It does 6,000 that time. Takes down 1109, and now Robin with this Dusk, after finding that tier 2 Riven, is still able to keep himself afloat at that 20 HP mark. Takes down, I believe that was Benva, but Setsuko loses once again, and suddenly maybe it actually isn't a top 4. I went back on my word saying I felt like it was going to get outscaled because it just looked so powerful, but then suddenly it was just the flip of a switch, and now Setsuko is just losing round after round, and it's a question of, can he hang on for one more to make it into this top 4? Because we expect to see Benva or Hobos fall as well in this next round. One of Setsuko, Hobos, and Benva is definitely going down in this next PvP phase.
Yeah, and then Setsuko and Robinsongz both have received a top 2 in the previous games, and so they are in the top contender. So after this one game, they should be extremely close and hitting the 24 points mark as well. And then another thing, I have to say, I really do love Saintvicious comp, just because of the fact that we have the community tends to complain, and I do as well sometimes, right? When I'm playing so many comps and we see the Ashe Chosen or Talon Chosen always winning on 4-1. But then we have like Saintvicious here, kind of proving everyone wrong, being 21 HP at the top. And granted, it's not first place yet, but he's running a TF Chosen from the very start of the game and doing really well with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's working great. I think the Mage Spat on this Zillion is helping out a ton with the tier 2 Lilia. I think that crowd control is one of the big reasons that it's working out so well, because yes, the Twisted Fate doesn't do a ton of damage, but between the Galio and the Lilia, just locking down massive amounts of enemy units, it's helping Saint actually win these rounds. And the Galio just has to take down the set at this point. The percent health damage might be big from the ultimate here that may allow the set to win as he goes to do some sit-ups in the corner, but gonna come back in and is going to pick up that kill. So Hobos gonna stay alive. Saint dropping incredibly low, but we see Setsuko not even top 4 with the Diana, so it was just a little bit too late. He didn't have enough HP to hold on, and he did get outscaled. So, oh wow, it felt like we were wrong when we first said that we thought the Diana was going to get outscaled, because the Diana was just surviving and just thriving all the way until stage 6. But at the end of the day, it did get outscaled, and it ends up as a 5th just because maybe it came a couple turns too late and not enough HP was held onto by Setsuko.
Yeah, and would you have expected the top 4 comps to be 1 Ashe comp, 2 Cultist comps, and then 1 Diana carry comp? So very interesting top 4s indeed, but oof, that 9 Cultist slam just demolished Robin's team. But the Riven still stands.
The Riven is the big deal here, but this Galio 3 is just destroying everybody, and Robin is going to drop extremely low. So now Saint
has 50 gold.
That's true. Robin's got to roll. Robin's has got to roll. We if we can, we should try and jump over to Robin and see if he can pick up anything here. Yeah, he's got to spend this money. He could go to 9. There's some options. I didn't notice that. I'm glad you picked up on that, because we need to see this. He's the only person that's doing anything these last couple of rounds. The rest of them, it's just positioning, because Robin's at 4, Hobo's at 5, Saint at 9. We could see it end right here on this next PvP round. So Robin has to make use of this, or else he's just ending a game with all of this leftover gold.
Robin's 100% going to roll down next turn. So I'm actually just curious is if he will sell that Pike now and go for a tier 2 legendary unit that he will get most likely at 9. But that is definitely a riskier play, and he will lose 6 Cultist Trumpet. So Pike does get...
Oh, Pike gone.
Will he get the chosen legendary? It's a risky play, but I love it here.
You gotta go fast, Robin. He's got 20 seconds. He finds one chosen at tier, but it is a Warlord chosen, like you said. That's kind of the worst. So he finds a Katarina to throw in. Oh boy, okay, Robin, find out what to do. Keep going.
No, he doesn't care about the Warlord buff. I mean, Azir 2 is still really great. He is running a dust comp anyways. It gives you Keeper, and
it was funny to see him grab the Katarina and throw it in, and then be like, wait a minute, that's not very good, and takes it out. So he's going up against Hobos as we see a big Cassiopeia ult, and now it's just this tier 2 Azir. Can it hang on and carry? That's a big ultimate from him hitting across the entire team, and Hobos just has this set really remaining, as the Zillion ult is going to keep a lot of these units alive even after the slam. And because it was against the wall, it actually did not connect onto as many units as Hobos would have wanted. So Robin, it pays off. All the gold getting spent. He gets that tier 2 Azir. He finds win. And actually, Saint goes down. Robin gets first. Robin gets first in this lobby. I knew it could end there, but I almost thought Saint was going to be fine to survive a little longer. So Robin, going to get second in the previous game, picks up a first here, and he is well positioned to set himself up for, either win condition with this first place. That's a lot of points.
What a roll down from Robin as well. As mentioned before, that was definitely a risky play. You lose your 6 cultists, and you're just banking on any legendary chosen that you found. And unfortunately, it was a Warlord, but then fortunately, it was a Azir too, which is perfect for his composition because he is running the Keeper. So great on Robin. Really risky. What do you think about the risky play? The fact that he had 50 gold and less than 10 HP. He had 1 round to just roll it all, banking on that legendary.
I mean, that was crazy. He went down to 4. I mean, the fact that he held on, he easily could have fallen with that HP on the previous round. With 50 gold in his pocket, he could have been leaving in 3rd or 4th place. But Nerves of Steel holding on until finally, in that final round, he does roll down all 50, finds that Azir. I mean, it was really well played by Robin, but extremely risky. Really brave play from Robin.
For sure. This last match. So let's take a look at the scoreboard. He did play extremely well in the last 2 games. Had a rougher start with the 6th place, but then he went 2nd and 1st, leaving out 21 points. So right now, everyone is really close, from between Robin all the way down to Saintvicious. They're all able to hit the 24 marks next game. Robin only needing 3 points to hit that 24 points. So he only needs a 6 and above. But let's not jinx it this time because we said that about Treebeard last time, who only needed 4 and above, still sitting at second place. So what do you think of the standings right now?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's very, very close. No one can actually finish off the night in game 4. We saw Spencer finish it in the 4th game last time around. He was the only person to hit 24 in game 3, and then he got first in round 4. That can't happen this time. We're guaranteed 5 games tonight. And, like you said, everyone can make it to 24 here in the top 6. So we could top 5. So we could easily see any of these top 5 take it in round 5 by getting to that 24 points and then getting a first place. If not, we might be in for it to get to that that 40 point total to end the night overall. A lot of players with a lot of points here. And so it really, really does feel like this could go anyway.
For sure. And then we have seen some really consistent play from all Robinsongz, Treebeard, Setsuko, Hobos. They have done really well. But even other players like saintvicious, he had a really rough start, but he played extremely well in games 2 and 3. You can see him slowly ranking up the scores. So I'm excited to see how these players might turn the games around. So we'll hop into game 4 very shortly. And I'm looking forward to see this underdog saintvicious, who had performed a little bit rougher in the last... Oh, wait, hold on. I have to say this. And I know he's in chat, but... a Mort Dog Carousel.
Mort Dog Carousel available for players that are going to spatulas here.
This is honestly one of my least favorite starts, just because of the fact that when you hit that spat, everyone seems to be kind of thinking the same direction. So we'll see here how many people is going to lean towards a rod next time to try to push for that dust, or they're going to just keep it flexible, like go for assassins or even Elderwood, because honestly, with the Ash comp, a lot of times you might run just the 2 Elderwood variation, just having your Ezreal and the Ash, and you don't have to run Nunu anymore, and you just make a Elderwood spat.
Yeah, we'll have to see what direction they all decide to go with the spatulas. The one exciting thing as a spectator, though, with the Mort Dog Carousel for all the spatulas is just seeing the different directions that they can go. And, speaking of Elderwood, though, there's an early Elderwood with the Maokai for Setsuko.
So we'll have to see here if he will go for the 6 Elderwood. I mean, you have the spat already. It's not hard to get Cloak on carousels. And you hit a Elderwood so early. So here's the thing. Is this a bait or not? Did he get more dogged into it? He found the spat. He found the Elderwood. Does he just go for it or not? And sorry, I have to say the words more dog one last time. And then we'll move on from that term.
Oh, I mean, we'll see. I don't know if it's necessarily a bait. I mean, the Elderwood has been good for a long time on the Fates. I mean, it's been that the Ash comp with the Elderwood was kind of the first OP composition, from Glider playing that on EU, climbing so incredibly fast very early on the set. And Ash is still one of the best carries. So we could see this Elderwood work out for Setsuko, but it does obviously come down to, does he roll into it? Does he actually hit what he needs? Or does it end up being, too little too late, like we saw with the Lissandra showing up way too late into the game and Setsuko getting 5th instead of a much higher placement that it felt like he was going to get?
Yeah, and the issue is that Ash is good for sure. So you could definitely go for 6 Elderwood variation. But the strongest variation is the Adept one, where you run Divine, Aurelia, Shen, Yone with your Ash. So 6 Elderwood is rarely played anymore just because there's a stronger version of it. But if the game gives it to you like this, do you just kind of go for it? Or no, you stick with what you know is best?
Yeah, I mean, potentially it just allows you to get the Elderwood more easily, right? Like, you don't have to still go for the 6 Elderwood or 9 Elderwood or whatever. You don't have to deep into Elderwood. You can still go Elderwood spat. You can have the chosen Elderwood, and you don't have to have as many in, right? And you can open up your composition to play kind of whatever you want. Like you mentioned, the Adepts, but you can continue to play really whatever units are fitting what you need for the game.
Yeah, I mean, he picked it up, but most likely this Maokai is going to be sold. I think that he's mostly going to pivot and just go for the 3 Elder variation, unless he hits like a Vagar 2 super early, and maybe he'll do some test runs. But these items are honestly kind of rough for him right now. He has a bow and a chain vest, so nothing that he can slam, because you definitely don't want to make it early units using, like, you don't want to Vanguard immediately from the start. That's just committing you to a path that you're just too unsure about. And you don't really want to slam Titan's Resolve. It's a item that you don't really use too often. We saw it in the Diana comp, and then we could see it in the composition with Riven. But you do want to hold those items for the Last Whisper or the GA as before.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, Setsuko, a little unfortunate on the items that there's nothing that you want to be slamming, as that can help you out a lot in the early game. We like going, and that is a chosen Nidalee. It looks like it is sharpshooter, as that is going to be the bounces coming out without any other sharpshooters on the board. So, of course, that is going to help Hobos be pretty strong in the early game, especially with this tier 2 Wukong in the front line, and that is a is that a Warlord stat?
Yes, Hobos have committed everyone into a Warlord's composition, it seems. I mean, I say committed, but obviously there's still a chance to pivot. But if you do pivot out of it, then you just kind of have a awkward Warlord spat item that you've already made. So we'll have to see if we finally see our first 6 or 9 Warlords composition with the Katarina carry.
I really, really hope he just commits. I really want to see this Warlords comp in the tournament setting. We've talked about it a couple of times, actually. We've mentioned it when we've seen some early Warlords, and it never pans out. It never actually, none of the players have ever stuck with it, at least in the last 2 weeks that we've been casting this. So I really want to see it committed to. We see here there's a couple more Warlords, actually. It's a Warlord Nidalee chosen for Benva, going in with that Sinjao, going to help this early game out quite a bit, but the beef on the side of Setsuko being a little bit too strong. Tom Kench, tier 2 early on, just way too tanky.
Should be able to Nidalee spare some more time, and I actually know that Tom Kench is just too tanky.
Yeah, it actually was closer than I thought it was going to be, because Nidalee, doing more damage further away with the spear, and I was like, the Tom Kench is going to be fine, and then he almost died. So I was a little surprised there. I thought that was going to be much heavier in Tom Kench's favor, but it ended up being quite close. Look at the HP values so far. 1109 at 80 HP on this carousel here, dropping a lot compared to the rest of the lobby, but I'm curious if he will just be able to stabilize that pretty quickly. It must have just been a very, very weak opening, and we'll see if maybe it was a lot of gold, and they're econing a bit right now, having not found anything too powerful.
Yep, and I'm glad that Setsuko didn't get baited over there. So he's been holding this Elderwood Malka for a very long time, sitting at 2 out of 3 Elderwood, but he didn't go for the cloak. He didn't want to commit into anything that is honestly wouldn't even benefit him that much here. Instead, he goes for a sword that can get him into GA or IE. And yes, what is with players going to level 5 and hitting Ash or Talon immediately?
Yeah.
Once again.
Yep. I mean, there's Talon. There's Talon. Is it a bait, Setsuko? Is it a bait? That is the question.
Elderwood Talon. I'm ready for it. I'm kidding. That is definitely... I don't think that's the play. I think that you probably want to run a Assassin Spat to go with the Talon instead. So you have looking for extra gloves.
Yeah,
you pick up that Talon though, right? Don't leave me hanging.
I
mean,
okay, so the last few times we've seen players pick up the early 4-cost Talon or Ash, they've ended up getting baited and hard losing. He's gonna make gold. We kept seeing it early on where they were buying the Talons. It was not going well for them. And this
I'm in shock.
I was like, nope, I want my gold. I don't want this Talon. I'm going to econ in the early game. If I want it, I'll get it later.
He has the GA already. I mean, you know what? He's running Elderwood now. He had that and maybe he's going for full commitment Elderwood. In that case, you know what? He shouldn't have grabbed that sword. Don't bait me into that GA Talon. You should have just went for the cloak. I'm kidding. I mean, I'm excited to see how Setsuko goes. I mean, granted, we saw before Talon Ash is very strong, but the first place comps that we have seen were not always Talon Ash. Actually, majority of it were not. So good for him that he decided to not lose his econ over it and is going for maybe Elderwood.
Yeah, potentially. But we're gonna jump over to Hobos for a little bit here and watch this Warlord Spat Slam. The commitment, of course this was Hobos. Of course Hobos was the one who committed the Warlord Spat.
Love it.
Straight away in this game. No, I absolutely love it. I really hope that Hobos can hit some of these warlords early on and actually make this work, and we don't have to see him pivot out. I would love to see, a 6 or 9 warlords, see that Katarina carry really popping off. I think it's a really explosive, cool comp to watch, and I think Hobos is our savior here for actually allowing us to witness a warlords maybe one time over the course of the Challenge Series casts.
I believe he's been holding on to the Vi and the Jarvan as well in expensive econ. So I always think he's pretty committed. I mean, honestly, this isn't the key part of why he's committed. It's really the Warlord spat item that he made that shows his commitment. So yeah, I am excited to see how this comp plays out. We might have a 9 Elevood versus a 9 Warlord game, and that would be extremely fun to watch. But other than that, though, as well, another player I want to note is saintvicious with a 5 win streak all the way to Crux. And Saint is someone that has done poorly in the past, but has been really doing well in these couple of games that we have seen.
Yeah, I mean, this time around, he turned it around, right? He started off in 8th. We were worried that it was going to be a repeat. 7th. Saint went 7th across the entire lobby last week. And so, starting off with a fast 8th was not looking great for Saint. But in the last 2 games, he finished, I believe it was 4th and 2nd. So Saint has really turned it around. And in this lobby, we talked about going into stage 3, 100 HP. Getting so ahead in econ because of this, it feels good in the position Saint is in. We always are seeing these players that are in this spot around this time, making it easily into the top 4 and then generally going top 2, top 1.
Yep, and then hopping back into Hobos and Treebeard real quick is that this was a lot closer than I expected. So Treebeard hit a Chosen Kitten, which at first glance is extremely strong. I do think it is still enough to... No, it wasn't! The Spear nearly came out, and the Warlord wins. And so here, Hobos can actually level to 6, and he has 6 Warlords.
He found the Katarina. Oh, he already had one. I didn't even notice.
He already had one,
okay,
yeah.
But he found a second Katarina, so he's actually close to getting the tier 2 Katarina. And he's at 6 Warlord. Like you said, I mean, it's coming online for Hobos. He's actually finding some of the pieces that he needs to really make this work. The banner actually work out. So Hobos taking a big risk by just slamming that straight away, but so far it is working with these Warlords.
Right, and then the thing is, though, for Hobos, if he is coming into this Warlord path, is that I'm curious to see his itemization, because right now, the most crucial item for your Katarina is a Gunblade, and he doesn't have either a component of a sword or a rod. So we'll have to see how much he commits into it, and if he'll end up getting those crucial components for her.
Yeah, and there is a carousel coming up, but of course, Hobos is going to be last pick as he continues this win streak, so he may have to rely on the Wolves round to actually hit some of these items that he really needs. But maybe the rods won't be as contested. It depends on, I guess, the rest of the lobby, if anyone's looking for them. Swords are going to be hard to come by as the last pick in the draft there, as you will, on the carousel.
Yep, and then I just want to point out for saintvicious as well, we just saw he is running a TF Chosen again, and it's on a win streak all the way to 3-3. So good for saintvicious. Another potential TF Chosen all the way to the late game. And Robinsongz as well. So these players have consistently been playing Cultist a lot. So saintvicious was a 9 Cultist player, and then Robin did transition at the very end in the last round, but he was running 6 Cultists for a very long time.
Look,
so
I just want to quickly shout out our director for jumping us over to Robin in this. He's on the 7 loss streak. And we're going to see if he can actually turn this around at all and find a win because he is down to 62 HP and his composition still looking incredibly weak. 3 Cultist, 3 Mage, 2 Sharpshooter. And he really, really needs to start to turn this around because the loss streak, while it is giving him a good amount of gold, it doesn't seem like he has Fortune in currently. No, he's 2 of 3. So he may want to look for that 3rd Fortune and try and find that win.
Right, but the thing is, so Robin only needs 6th place and above to guarantee hit the first threshold of 24 points in order to qualify to get that 1st place victory, right? But this does put him farther away from the other competitors that may just end up getting to 40 points before Robin can even accomplish that 1st win. So we'll have to see how he pivots back, if he's just playing it safe and just going to go for the 6th place, or if he's going to keep trying to rack up as much points as possible. And because if Robin gets 1st place here, I believe he will be in the 31 point. And so even without that first place, it's very possible for him to just win off of the second win condition.
Yeah, absolutely could get there, but right now, being at 57 HP, incredibly low compared to the lobby. I mean, Saint is still at 100, and 3-5, Saint is still at 100. So this is, one of those lobbies where we're like, okay, well, Saint is going to top 2 this one. It's very likely. With the extra economy that he's got. I don't even have to look at his board. The way that it has trended when we've been watching these games, players who are at 100 HP by, I believe it's like 3-4, have always been top 2. They've always been top 2. It's in the last 2 weeks. In the last 2 weeks, obviously, like it's a stat that you can't go too deep into, but it's in the recency that we have watched. It has worked really well for these players when they get this early lead and they're able to econ out.
Yep, so saintvicious coming back very strongly, and then Robin here is trying to see if he can get at least a 6th place for this one. I mean, we'll have to see from the roll down on 4-1, which is most crucial. And I do want to point out his opponent, Benva, has also made the Warlord SPAD. So now we have 2 players who have committed to Warlords, and Benva actually has another SPAD on his bench, so he could make even more if he wanted to.
All right, but Robin ends up not going for the fortune, ends up just trying to start winning in general, ends up ending his 7-loss streak, finally picking up a win. The only person lower than him is 1109, who's dropped down to 51 HP, is probably on a massive loss streak as well, probably around the similar mark to what Robin was at with the 7 losses.
So he's going to hit level 7 by Wolves, and we'll have to see which Chosen he hits. I mean, so something we have noticed about Robin in the previous rounds is that he has kept his Chosen and has not sold his Chosen for a 4-cost one. But granted, this time it is a Mage TF, which is not really doing much for him right now. And I doubt he's going to keep this Mage route. So most likely this TF is going to go, and he's going to be able to commit and hopefully find a 4-cost Chosen to stabilize him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Robin is definitely going to sell this when he goes to 7. This is not like the Pike whatsoever. And you can see he's pretty frustrated by losing that round. He doesn't want to be losing any more HP right now. And the TF was just a fraction of a second away from casting the wild cards and actually being able to win that round. So we see the cells coming out from Robin straight away, preparing himself for the roll down.
Picking up some sharpshooters. So he has the option to run the 4 sharpshooters, but chances are he probably wants to go for your steady Ash or the talent comps. With the items right now, he has an IE, the Gargoyle, which is just an extra tank item that doesn't do too much for him. So it's really just the IE right now for his main carry. Another stat? Or Nico, there we go.
Okay. So Sword picked up a couple of needlessly large rods as well. And then we do have that Nico that you mentioned that was picked up. Lux going to be the first kind of completion here for Robin as he starts down. Not hitting any Chosen just yet, but he does have that talent. He has a couple Aris. He could have pretty good items for Ari here as well, as he does potentially have tier 2 Ari. Now, we did see Ari basically carrying Spencer to a victory last week, and he was saying that Jeweled Gauntlet was one of the biggest items for him. So we do have Robin headed in that direction.
Is that there really isn't much of a front line for Robin. So usually with your Ari, you do want to run some Vanguards in the front. He doesn't have any Vanguards right now, and then his work was his only melee / frontliner that immediately got demolished. So this is still in a very tough spot for Robin right now. So he did slam the Jewel Gauntlet. It seems like he wants to commit to, I'm not really sure if you do want to commit to the Asari. Obviously, you do pick it up because you want to stabilize and you want to build a strong support to try to maintain your health as much as possible. But it's going to be a much harder pivot for him here just because he's missing so many Vanguard units in order to make this count work. But he does find the Aatrox. Grabbing a couple of Mystics here. There we go. These are good levels up for him. Ooh. But then you take
Talon.
So you slammed the Jewel Gauntlet already, and
he just sold Assassins.
Yeah, and this a shame because he doesn't have IE anymore. I actually wouldn't take that. If he didn't slam the Jewel Gauntlet, he would still have that option for IE, which then 100% you take the Talon. But without any gloves right now, you only have the Death Cap for him, or sorry, Death Blade, which really doesn't do much, or is not enough.
Yeah, unfortunate for Robin because that would have been quite good, but we'll have to see if the Ari can do enough. Pretty good hits on that last roll down overall for Robin. Finding a couple of those mystics, getting more of a front line with this Cassiopeia, getting the Shen as well. So we'll have to see if he continues to hit because he does have that Aatrox to set up for some Vanguards down the line, and the Ari doing an insane amount of damage already. Gonna slam the Dusk Spat as well, potentially go up to 4 Dusk coming up. So that's a lot of spell power for this Ari. So anytime one of these Spirit Bombs goes off, it is going to just decimate the enemy.
And then Robin does get first pick on the carousel. Most likely he's just going to look for a chain vest so he can slam the GA. He's thinking where or not he gets to... Okay, so he does pick it up. 4 mixes is not bad, but in these lobbies right now, 4 mixes may not be as strong because not a lot of people are playing AP. And it's actually a lot of AD damage. So right now he definitely needs more of a front line. But for the time being, the 4 mystics may be enough to keep him contesting.
Yeah, the Yumi's potentially just keeping what front line he does have alive could be Ethiopia. Treebeard. I think this is going to hit just everybody and completely destroy Robin here. There is a lot of healing, though, from these Yumis. And actually, I mean, the Yumis are kind of carrying, being able to keep everyone alive so that the Ari can actually get that off. Yeah, wow. Absolutely. These Yumis being able to keep everyone alive. And even though it looked really rough for Robin due to the fact that that Cassio did hit on just about everyone, it looks like he, well, never mind. These Zizirot not balanced item, actually. Soloing out the carry at the end, and Robin still loses that. Wow. I was not expecting that. I thought that was absolutely one, but Zizirot is just too strong, apparently.
Cassiopeia actually did so many crucial ults there. Like, it ulted once perfectly into the front line to stop the enemy team, and it did it again to the back line when units were targeting the Ari. So giving the Ari at least, I believe, 2 main ults and then 3 in total, but the Ari wasn't able to kill off the Zizirot. So Robin here, wondering what he can do. It's a really rough spot. But then again, as mentioned before, he only needs a 6th place to get the 24 points. So would he just... here's the thing is that, like, question is, rolling it down, there's really not a lot he's looking for. So it seems like he wants to push for 8. But he is at 39 HP, which is a really scary spot for him.
Yeah, I think with the GA on this Ari, I think Robin might have the Dusk. I think that Robin has time, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tight. He's at 39 HP. It is really close. He just hit that tier 2 Aatrox. That'll help him quite a bit. But we are going to check back in with saintvicious, who's only had 1 loss this entire game. And it was barely a loss as he's sitting at 97 HP. He has gone cultist once again. He has an Azir in already. And he is so powerful going up against Benva. Potentially, we'll see him look... Well, no, actually, it's not a cultist chosen. It's a mage TF this time.
So saintvicious was actually running a TF last time as well, and I'm really happy to see him running it again, showing that TF may potentially be the new carry for both games in a row. And it is scary to see how much of a gold lead that he is in. He's going to be at level 8 on 4-6 with 50 gold. Absolutely insane.
It's, I mean, we've touched on the econ from having that massive HP advantage in the early games many times, and once again, you know, Saint kind of proving the point that an early lead can absolutely just take you everywhere in TFT. Level 8 already, 50 gold. He's still not in any danger of dying soon, and he's still winning rounds. So he can continue to just look to go fast 9, start to potentially just go for one of those like legendary compositions that we've seen in the past where you just get all of the tier 2 legendaries. Because look at this. I mean, he's so strong still, even with all this gold that he is just banking and continuing to put towards the level up. It seems like he will be unstoppable in this match.
Yeah, I'm just really surprised how a simple mage TF was able to push out so much damage, because even looking at the damage chart just now, like, he did the most damage in the team. simply just by putting a TF along with a Lulu into it and running 6 cultists to tank up all the other damage, protecting your TF. So one thing we have seen is that once you hit level 9, I do think that this TF will be sold for a better legendary chosen unit. And we have seen that worked out for Robin. Robin had a lot of a risk on his end, right? Because he was down to 4 HP, I believe, when he got to level 9. But saintvicious has 97 health. He's 60 gold away. So, like, next round, if he wanted to, he could have just won for 9. Granted, he won't, just because he's
right. He doesn't need to.
Yeah. But he's going to be in a very safe spot to go for that level 9, sell your TF, and look for the tier 2 unit that is a legendary.
Yeah, I mean, this game, it honestly just feels like it should be in the bag for Saint. I mean, he'd have to get just so unlucky with maybe his roll down after he levels to 9 for it to not go his way, because like you said, he's going to go to 9 with 50 gold, probably. Like, looking at this game, it feels like he's going to have 50 gold left when he goes to 9. Or even if he goes before then, he's still going to have some gold left for the roll down, because he doesn't need to force it. He's already almost there. His board is still stronger than most of the lobby. It's just kind of all going his way in this game.
Yeah, so one thing we saw from last round that was a key point was that he did run Lilia, and the Mage TF plus Lilia composition was really strong, just having the Lilia sleep the enemy team twice. So we'll have to see if he does go for that route, or like you mentioned, like just go for the level 9 push forward. And demolishes against Bertasaurus. He was running Warlords, and I believe there are 2 players who are running Warlords, and one of them are 9 Warlords. I'm not sure if Bertasaurus is the one, or was it
probably
Hobos
Hobos.
that had 9?
It's probably Hobos.
Yes, I believe that too.
He did have the spat commit really early on, and he was hitting pretty much all of the Warlords that he needed. So if there's a 9 Warlord in this game, my bet is on Hobos, especially because it looks like he is win streaking. But I mean, we've mentioned it before. Saint, still so incredibly strong. Most people are just getting to 8 now, and Saint has been 8. He's got 44 experience already into this level, and he can go 9 at any time he wants to set up for the finish of this game. And you mentioned, yeah, he could go Lilia at 9, just play that mage, set up for the crowd control. He doesn't have to sell the TF. We expect the TF to be sold because it does make sense for him to go towards a tier 2 legendary unit that he can get off of finding a new chosen, but potentially he can still win without it. Robin, though, gets a really big stun from the Casio, and now it's a matter of, can this Spirit Bomb from the Ahri do enough? It looks like maybe he did find the Dusk. Yeah, I think he did. That did look like it may be a cranked 4 Dusk Ahri dealing all of that damage, and yeah, Robin gonna be the one to shut down this win streak from saintvicious and maybe put a little bit of pressure on this space mole here to start leveling up towards 9.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for saintvicious to start falling off a little bit here just because he's just been sitting on gold and just slowly leveling up. Again, he's still in a really good spot with 81 HP, but good for Robin and 1109. These 2 players were at 7th and 8th place, looking really low, and both of them had hit their power spike and are on their win streak. But jumping into Hobos here, so he's not the 9 Warlord players. I believe that was actually Bertasaurus, but he is running the 6 Warlords with a Riven carry.
Yeah, Warlord Riven. I mean, I think she does well with the stats that Warlord gives, so this kind of makes sense as a decent carry beside this, especially because it seems as though Hobos just cannot find the 3rd Katarina. We saw him pick up 2 extremely early into this game, and he's still just on tier 2 Cat. So the carry has to be Riven instead, but with the Warlord, with that Bramble Vest, she is just incredibly tanky.
Yeah, and then surprisingly enough, the Kayn is doing so much damage in the backline. So Kayn against a lot of comps is extremely good because he is a burst of damage. And you are able to target those backliners that most of your frontliner units that Warlords usually have a tough time going to. So without the Katarina carry, you're really relying on that Kayn now to go to the backline.
Yeah, and there's another Kayn on this carousel if Hobos wants to try and way to Kayn 2, but it has an Infinity Edge, which I don't think is the exact item that Hobos is looking for here. Might want a Katarina item with the Gunblade, potentially, but that's going to go away as well. And now with those left, would you consider just grabbing the Kayn then, I guess?
Yeah, I mean...
I don't feel like any of these are so good.
Nah, you probably just pass those on because your ribbon's already stacked. And the ribbon honestly might even get sold because it's not really providing much besides a small keeper buff, which is neat. But if you hit a set 2 or any other legendary 2 unit, especially if you hit a 0-2, you can just take out the ribbon and look for a better legendary to put that warlord spat on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he does have the ability to find shows that it is legendary, as you mentioned. It absolutely could be beneficial to just try and sell the ribbon and change it over.
We'll see though,
Hobo,
because he is running Casapio with her, so he might want to value the dust a little bit longer. So we'll see that once he hits the set 2, if he decides to transition over or not. But yeah, hopping over to back to Robinsongz, who is now in 3rd place. So good for him. Seems like he was able to stabilize. Will the Eye be able to ult though, getting stunned multiple times? But here comes the bomb,
yeah,
and boom.
boom, boom. The Ari is still just massive, and he found the items that he needed to Spencer after his win last week about the Ari, and he said, "Hey, if you hit Jeweled Gauntlet, you hit the Guardian Angel. That the Ari can just be so incredibly powerful. It can just win the games." And we look at the positioning, and Robin is positioning pretty similarly to what we saw out of Spencer last week. We see the Aatrox set up as well to try and pull any assassins off of the Ari and then stack up the enemies so that they all get hit by the Spirit Bomb.
Yeah, I was definitely really concerned for Robin at first because when he first found the Ari, he had like 4 sharpshooters just in the back line of Warwick. That was all his front line. They were all just lying in the last row. But he able to come through. That Casapia is doing so much work, putting all the other remaining items on the Casapia.
So Benva, there's 2 Warlord spats to make the 9 Warlords here.
Ooh.
And one of them is on a tier 2
Oh,
Ezreal.
no.
And the Spirit Bomb just barely not doing enough damage. So actually Robin's going to take a lot of damage from Benva there. As this composition is crazy. Tier 2 Ezreal with Warlord on 9. Benva on a win streak trying to pull it back. As we see actually Bertasaurus and Treebeard both going to be going down in 8th and 7th respectively.
That was such a close one too. Like close in terms of the damage done on the backline. Granted, the 9 Warlord player was going to win that fight almost no matter what. But seeing that Ari bomb go down and not finish off any unit was just definitely very sad to see. And as you mentioned, Benva was the 9 Warlords player, so we actually did have 3 instead. It wasn't Hobos, it wasn't Bertasaurus, it was Benva all along. So we'll have to take a look later on and see how he does or if his comp keeps up. But 1109 as well, I don't remember what his composition was, but he is stabilizing as well. He was on 8th place prior, and now he climbed himself to 2nd place. Robin doing his roll down now, though, to hopefully stabilize. It's another Mystic unit. Decides to take it. I don't think he's going to hit a Casapia 3, even though that would be a huge power spike. So he's selling that unit, remaking one to keep up with the Mystics. He needs Vanguards, I feel like.
Yep. Finds a Lilia.
I'm not sure if I would have taken that Casapia, just because he already has a Casapia 2. And right now he's at Awkward Spot with 5 Mystics, and 6 Mystics I don't really feel like is necessary. Maybe another Chosen One better, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, wow, that Spirit Bomb felt like it did absolutely nothing. I mean, mainly just hits a Dragon Claw. Gonna be able to pretty much just ignore that and go around spinning, Beyblading around the entire board, taking down Robinsongz entire army. So Hobo's gonna win that one. I think the Dragon Claw was quite the hit for Hobos in that fight.
Very good loss for Robin there, though. Oh, so, okay, Robin is secured. He needed only 6th place to guarantee himself the 24 points. So I say secure, but at least he made it through the first threshold, making it to 24 points. I don't quite recall everyone else's scores, but Hobos and Saintvicious was also very close at the top. So I believe that these 2 players hitting this 1st and 2nd place will also grant them that 24 points. So next game is going to be very scary to see. We're probably going to have at least 2, and I think approximately 3 players who would be able to qualify if they hit 1st place.
Saint needs 1st in this game because of the 8th that he got in game 1. He actually needs 1st to secure 24 points in this lobby. So Saint absolutely needed this game to go well, and it has been going very well for Saint overall. We look at his composition now. He has pivoted. He has that tier 2 Azir. He has this Ashe as a carry, tier 2 Lilia, tier 2 Zillion. He's got the legendaries comp online, and he's in the top 3 as Robin will go out 5th, 1109 going out 4th. And that is a tier 2 Ezreal. So, yeah, this is just the legendaries comp. Tier 2 Lee Sin as well. They're all here for Saint as he finally did that roll down. And we are going to see Hobos go to level 9, so maybe he can start to try and contend. But I don't know. The last time we saw this, it did not look close for anyone else.
Any times when you have multiple tier 2 legendary units, it almost spells GG when you just look at this board, right? So if you just have 2, that might not be enough, but when you have 4 in total, so we have to see. So Kayn 2 here is mainly Hobo's carry, straight to the back line.
Yeah, it actually hits a D-Claw and a Warmogs again. D-Claw not going to be helping as much against Saint because the Ashe is just going to mow down the Kayn. And there is just so much power across the board for saintvicious that even though Hobos has such a strong Kayn carry, it just cannot do enough.
So here's the thing, is that Hobo is stronger than Benva here, and I think that saintvicious is stronger than everyone remaining. So we'll have to see. Hobo, I believe, already rolled down his gold as well. Saintvicious, everyone, I think, rolled down their gold, but saintvicious don't really have much that he needs to level up. All his legendaries are tier 2. I think he has a Warwick 1, which wouldn't really do much for him either way because it has no items on it.
Yep, the Aurelia and the Warwick are the only 2 that are really upgradable. And as you mentioned, not really going to do that much by picking those up.
Yeah, and I do want to state that the way that Saint got here was through Cultist plus the TF Chosen, and how it has transformed already. Like, granted, we already knew that level 9 he was going to sell that TF and roll down for a legendary unit, but still, like, we see almost none of the Cultists remaining besides the Zillion, and every other units are essentially gone.
He actually kept 0 units, I believe, because he didn't have this prior. This is a new pickup for him. So he has 0 of the same units from the last time that we visited Saints board, which is just amazing to see just how that economy, how all that gold allowed him to completely transform what composition he was playing throughout this game. And I mean, yeah, it is a completely unique board to the last time we saw, and he's just decimating everyone he comes into contact to. And it looks like maybe Benva's gonna go down as well. It was
the Canes.
Yeah, the Canes fighting each other. Benva gonna go down. Saint was actually fighting a clone, so Hobo's gonna survive one more round, but I do not think he has a shot to beat Saint here. And Saint, this was a crucial first place for Saint because it sets him up to be able to try and close out this tournament today on the next game with another first place.
Yeah, so saintvicious, as you mentioned, is at 15 points right now, so he needed to get the first place in order to hit that 24 points threshold. And I want to say that Hobos is at 16 points, so this second or first place guarantees him that number as well. So now we have 3 players, I believe, that is confirmed to be eligible to take home the victory, which is Robinsongz, Hobos, and also saintvicious.
Yeah,
they watching these legendaries right now.
Absolutely needed it. Hobo's, trying his best with this composition. He hit a couple of his own tier 2 legendaries, but not nearly to the extent that Saint hit. And Saint is going to take the game. He's going to take first place on this one, and he's going to secure the opportunity to try and close it out. He's going to hit the threshold. He's going to 25 points here, which is very important in the grand scheme of this format. There's probably a couple other players that did hit from this lobby. We were expecting the entire top 5 of this lobby were in a decent spot to get there, and I'm curious to see how many actually did.
Yeah, I believe 3, but we will see very shortly. But well played by saintvicious. So we spoke about this before, where saintvicious was kind of the underdog of tournament. He performed rough last week, and then at the start of his tournament, he did land himself at 8th. But then again, he went 4th, then second, and then a first place. So Saint rose up very quickly, and now he has hit that 24 points threshold, which we will see very shortly. So congrats to him, but we will see if he is able to take that spot of first place. So we see here 3 yeses, Robinsongz, saintvicious, and Hobos. So none of these players can win off of the second win condition yet for the 40 points, but they couldn't win off of the first one. So who are you rooting for? I mean, Treebeard, unfortunate for him because he only needs 4th place before, but he did hit at 8th and 7th, so he's a little bit short from that point hold. But these other 3 players have been doing amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I love the storyline. Saint coming back, having a pretty rough week last week, getting 7th overall. This time, starting out with an 8th, but then really rallying back and getting this first that he absolutely needed to then now be tied for first in the lobby as far as points are concerned so far. But at this point, the points may not matter because they have reached that 24-point threshold. Any of these 3 can close it out in this next game. If Robinsongz, saintvicious, or Hobos get first, it is over. They take first place and they get the invite to the qualifier.
Yep, so next game will be coming soon. We're going to be taking a 5-minute break, but really excited to see how the other 5 players will maybe deny and try to stop these 3 players from getting first place, or these 3 players just play amazing and one of them will take home the victory and be our second confirmed player for the qualifiers. So we'll be back after a really short break after 5 minutes. Hello and welcome back to Challenger Series. We're heading into Game 5 now. So we've had some really exciting games so far, with Saint Vicious being an underdog, coming back with some really strong games, and then we have also Robin and Hobos just playing consistently well throughout the tournament. So we have 3 players now that are very close to obtaining the victory to the Challenger Series. So Casa, what are your thoughts so far?
Well, important note, all 3 of those players hit the exact placement that they needed to actually reach the 24-point threshold. Robin, I believe, got 6th, which put him exactly 25. He couldn't have gone lower. Same with Saint, got 1st. If he had gotten 2nd, he wouldn't have gotten there. And Hobos got 2nd. If he had gotten 3rd, he wouldn't have gotten there. So all 3 of these players got exactly the placements they needed to make it to that 24-point threshold, and now they have the opportunity to end it here with the first place. And I think any of them could do it. Robin's gotten a first tonight already. He's looked good in a lot of these games. Saint has just been scaling throughout the night, and so he finally scaled into the first. I wonder if he's just going to keep going. Hobos has been consistent, either 2nd or 3rd, pretty much the whole night, except for in game 1. But now maybe it's his time to finally get a first out of the lobby. I think that all 3 of these players are massive threats to end it right now. I feel like a lot of the other players in the lobby have done well. They could take the first away. They could continue the night, but I have a feeling that this is going to be our last lobby, Risa. I just there's a feeling about it. I think one of these 3 is going to take it.
I'm extremely excited to see. And it's funny thing that you mentioned about those exact placements, right? So as you mentioned, Robinsongz needed 6th, he got it. Saint Vicious needed 1st, he got it. Hobos needed 2nd, he got it. So here's the thing, is that I wonder if they took account of the 24 points and they just played for the minimum of that placement, and it was this perfect calculation that they were able to hit it, or maybe coincidence, but it is interesting to see that all 3 players were able to get the exact placement that they needed to go into the threshold of the 24 points.
Yeah, absolutely. It was insane. Saint, of course, needing that first and clutching it out, and now he needs another first, and we'll see if he can clutch it as well as we get a nice little zoom on the chonk going
You
doing his
get a little
dance.
chonk every single tournament, so thank you for that, spectating on 1109's end. So right now, 1109 is in a little bit of a rougher spot. I believe he is currently at 16 points. So the thing is like he's mostly trying to get a first place. Granted, he only needs a 2nd to reach the 24 points threshold, but he wants to deny that first place from the other 3. So it's a lot of these players who are in the 4th to 5th place right now will be gunning for that first place spot in order to hold out for another game, hoping to stop them from taking home the victory.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, realistically, this is just a race between Hobos, Saint, and Robinsongz to try and get first in this to close it out. And every other player in the lobby is just trying to stop them. They're all thinking anybody except for Hobo, Saint, or Robin. Like, they want anyone else to get the first in this game, to continue it, to give them a shot to actually take it for themselves in the subsequent game. So, we will have to see if there's any griefing that is done to try and prevent someone who is doing really well and is one of the threats to close it out, or if everyone just tries their very best to play for that first place, because you do, at this point in the tournament, need to just get a first. It cannot be just a good placement. It can't just be a top 4. Got to be that first, or else someone else might get it and might take the tournament down.
Yeah, even for the player who is in the last place right now, that would be Bertasaurus, who has 14 points. If he gets a first in this tournament, he could still win, just because of the fact that he will hit the 24 points mark, and then he would just need another first. So for a player like Bertasaurus, who is last in standings, he will need 2 firsts in a row, which is quite the accomplishment in order to win. But otherwise, yeah, it's almost still anyone's game, but the 3 players to look at right now is definitely Hobos, Robinsongz, and Saint Vicious, as these 3 are eligible right now to take home the grand prize.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now we're looking at 1109. He's got that Tom Kent with the GA. As we see a Luden's chosen Maokai on the other side for Robinsongz. Going with the very beefy lineup with the Tom, the Maokai, and then actually has a tier 2 Zed already for the damage. So it's a bit of a high roll for the early game for Robin, actually. And that could be huge for him because he needs a first. And every time we have seen someone get to 3-4 with 100 HP, they have been able to top 2. Now, obviously, second place, not as good for Robin. He really wants that first. But if he can stick with this 100 HP for a while, that increases his odds by an insane margin.
So even in the worst case scenarios, let's just say that for Robin, which isn't worst case scenario, but let's just say he gets second place instead of first. He will be very close to the 40 points mark. And then let's just say the game after that, Bertasaurus was still not at 24 points, but he takes the first place instead. And Robin hits the 40 points mark, then Robin actually just takes home the victory. So here's the thing is that yes, you are gunning for the first place because you want to just push for that win, but you still want to do well otherwise. It's not really a first or eighth kind of mindset because the idea is that if Treebeard or sorry, not Treebeard, Hobos or saintvicious doesn't get that first, you going for second there is still really well just because you could still win off of the second condition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in either case, this game is looking really nice for Robin already because he has such a strong early board. If he can continue to stick with that win streak in the early game, this is going to be set up very nicely leading into the mid to late game. And the composition that he had currently, we were looking at that, Maokai, that Tom Kench, that Zed, it definitely is an early game spike, right? That's not going to continue throughout all of the mid game. So we'll have to see if Robin can continue to hit things that can help supplement that composition.
Yeah, and then also 1109 right now is in a pretty rough spot. Him and Bertasaurus are both at 86 HP already, and he has a pretty weak board. No Chosen yet, sharpshooters that are tier 1, and then you have a Elise and a Garen, so not really any synergies for your front line. So just taking the full damage every single one of these rounds, I believe this drops him down to in the 70s.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Going down to 78, 1109, really taking a beating in the early game. On 10 gold, he's trying to econ up a little bit, but yeah, taking a lot of damage. We actually saw the previous game, 1109, took a lot of damage early on and almost was able to stabilize, but he ended up going out in 5th. We saw, that big win streak in that mid game, but it just didn't quite pan out for the late. But we know that 1109 does have the capacity to hold on even when he's dipping low and find that composition, start to build a good mid game. We'll just have to see if it can transition to a late game as well for this one.
Yeah, definitely props to him for hitting that mid-game spike and be able to play well enough so that he got himself a 5th place. But that's the issue, right? That when you do take such drastic hits in the beginning, even when you get that really great power spike towards the mid to late game, just because your health pool is so low, it's looking like a 4th or 5th place a lot of times. So this is just simply 3 rounds and he lost 22 HP already, so a 5th of his health. So this is definitely scary and doesn't look like he's going to really go for a win with this comp. So he did put in the Kennen. So having Keeper here is strong. And okay, so he spent all his money here to stabilize a little bit more, but we'll see if it's enough to, because it is a lot stronger now. He's running 3 cultists and then 2 keepers.
Yeah, I mean, the Keeper cultist, we have seen how strong that is in the early game in the past. And even the Guardian Angel on Kennen is quite powerful. But this is a massive Jarvan chosen with the ZZ Rot portal. And it's such a powerful unit in the early game, this Jarvan. I feel like it is one that's maybe underrepresented, but the tier 2 Jarvan is just so powerful in the early stages. And Saint is going to be at 100 HP alongside Robin. The top 3 are the top 3 right now. All 3. It's Saint, Robin, and Hobos looking for that first place. And we see Treebeard has got a pretty spicy board here with the Mage and the Veigar on the blue buff.
The chat is hyped as well. The blue buff Veigar game. He's running 3 mages. We'll see how he does. So here's the thing. Treebeard is in an interesting spot. He had a really amazing lead against all the other competitors and had a little rougher time the last 2 games. He only needed a 4 for above, but ended up 8th and then the 7th, so still not meeting that 24 points threshold. But he was consistently playing really well in the early game, so he's playing something more unconventional this time. Maybe it'll pay off for him. Something we have noticed in this tournament is that when you don't simply just go for your Ashe and your talent comps, you actually take home the first place when you just give what is given to you.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen it work out in the past. We'll see if the Veigar can work out for Treebeard. Shoutouts to H2. Different set, same same champion.
So he sells a TF here. He's not gonna run the 3 mages, but it seems, I mean, Here's a question. You committed the blue buff already to the Veigar, and when I say commit, it's still really early in the rounds. I feel like anything prior to 4-1 is still very pivotal. So yes, you do have the Veigar 3, or sorry, Veigar 2, and it's looking like he wants to just play it just because he did put the blue buff and is racking up those AP points. But it's all about that chosen you get later on, and there's still a really good chance for him to pivot out of it depending on the items that he goes for.
Yeah, he certainly could pivot out. You know, it could be Mage, it could be Elderwood, if he wants to stick with the Veigar, but blue buff can go onto a Riven later if he wants to go for Dusk or something of that nature, and we could just see him hit whatever. He could hit anything, really, is the main point here. Could be the Ashe, could be the Talon once again.
Yep, he sees the Moonlight Aphelios, but no other Moonlight unit, so there's no need for it. If that was a Hunter, potentially he does have the Kindred. He could put it down for some more powers, but honestly, this is still kind of a tough spot for Treebeard. It's a question of that Veigar really hasn't been carrying him at all. He's on a 2-loss streak, and we'll have to see if he does decide to pivot out of it or he's already committed.
Okay, Hobos playing some sharpshooters alongside Warlords. Right now, he does have that chosen Garen in the front line. Those Teemos barely surviving the cast from the Veigar. Needs a little bit more AP before he's one-shotting the the 1-star T-Bows, who not known for their toughness or HP values. So that's not looking great for Treebeard. As I'm just keeping an eye on the HP here, but Hobos obviously taking that win over Treebeard is still sitting at that 94 HP on the win streak. Saint winning again, and Robin 3-2, level 6, 100 HP. I mean, this is a fight. I said it at the start, I think one of them's getting first, and well, we're looking at the economies of this game, the fact that they're all on these win streaks. It's looking like a barn burner for that first plays to try and secure the win.
Definitely once you hit the 24 points mark, and adrenaline kind of kicks in. I remember from the Oceania finals as well, talking to the players, the second they hit the 24 points mark or they know that other competitors are there, there's just this pressure that gets to you where you're like, all right, this is the time now. Like all the other games were important too, but this game here, there's just so much more emphasis onto it that you're really pushing your brain to like the next level in order to go forth. And then focusing on this game or this one little matchup here, this Veigar is really having a tough time killing anyone. We saw even in the last round with the team of ones, he couldn't even finish them off. And Veigar just took too much of a hit in the previous time that I feel like it's just not paying off for him. So we'll have to see that if Treebeard does want to try to force something with it or completely just decides to sell it once it hits 4-1.
Yeah, I mean, we were really hyped on it, and the Veigar is just not paying off whatsoever. It's just not dealing any damage. It really needs either more items, or it just needs, you know, I don't really, a buff, I guess. It's not really paying off at all for Treebeard, not even able to kill very weak units with this ultimate yet. It certainly feels like maybe it's I mean, of course it is a late game scaling a mage, you know, it does permanently scale infinite amount of times, but right now it's just far too weak for Treebeard to be winning too many rounds.
Yeah, I mean, he did slam the rod as well, so we have to see if he does go for a sword in the carousel and then he slams a sword onto the Veigar. I would say that
Ooh,
he actually won the game. I would say that he would be very committed into that path then. So we'll have to see if Treebeard just decides to just go for it, because he actually only needs 3 points, I believe, in order to go for the 24 points threshold. Granted, like if saintvicious, Hobos, or Robin get first, then it's just N. But Treebeard might just be going for those 3 points and saying like, all right, I'm just hoping that these other players don't get first and end the entire tournament.
Yeah, potentially so. Treebeard gonna grab that tier out from Setsuko's nose. Potentially Ludens for the Veigar?
Probably not Luden. So technically for a perfect itemization for the Veigar, you want your blue bluff, you want your gunblade, and then you want any other tier item. So unfortunately there was no sword for him, so he's probably still saving that for the gunblade. And then he's just gonna use that tier and slam it into whatever other item so that the Veigar can immediately ult later on.
Yeah, that does make sense. He does need to make sure that he has the sustain, and it was on a kindred, so that actually is kind of nice for Treebeard. He can just throw in a kindred with a tier, slightly more powerful for himself.
So hopping over to Hobos now, who's running 4 Vanguards. He's using, I wonder if he's actually going to keep this little trick. I haven't seen it in a while. It's something back in set 1 you can do, where if you pick up a unit from Carousel, or if you're bench full, then you get to have an extra unit on the board. So I haven't seen this in a very long time. I'm happy to see Hobos doing it once again, hopefully getting 40 gold out of it. There we go. So you could still sell after. So this is kind of like a glitch that I wasn't sure if it would work. There are times where you aren't able to sell if you use this little mechanic, but it seems like you are still able to.
Yeah, so he's able to still make 40 gold, trying to just help out a little bit to make the loss a little bit better, but it's still a pretty tough loss. Doesn't work out too well, but yeah, using that little trick to have 7 units on board instead of 6. Losing to Benva here. And Benva actually on a massive win streak at 86 HP. And we did see Robin has lost a few, but Saint, ever since his 1 loss in the early game, has yet to lose once again and has leveled to 7 at 3-6. So another fairly early 7 from an HP leader.
Yeah, saintvicious pulling through with another win streak. I'm actually really curious if he has another TF on board or not, or if he decides to go for a different method in win streaking. And then we have Benva here keeping up with everyone else, and maybe he'll be the saver for the other players where he would deny them of the first place and keep this going for another game.
Yeah, we see the composition. It's not a Twisted Fate for Saint. We see him on the other side here. It is this Jarvan that we caught earlier that's been kind of carrying a lot of these fights with the ZZ Rot portal. And there's a Jinx alongside it, so there is the sharpshooters overall that are helping out quite a bit. But really, it feels like this Jarvan has just been instrumental in the win streak staying alive.
Jarvan has just been so great and just getting to the backline and demolishing, especially against the sharpshooter comp. So the sharpshooters were really strong for Hobos, but unfortunately the Jarvan, especially when it's a tier 2 and it has a CZ Rise as safety backup to tank up even more damage, is able to just push through the line really quickly. Going to Wolves now. We'll see if he keeps up the sharpshooter build. We haven't seen a sharpshooter build all the way to the late game yet. We have seen it played briefly from early to mid game, but we haven't seen a 4 sharpshooters comp like we did in the last Challenger series.
Yeah, we have not seen sharpshooters really paying off this time like it did last week, but you know, that's not going to stop Hobos from trying it here potentially. See if he gets a Chosen that decides to have him pivot, or if maybe he finds, what if he finds a Jin Chosen or something like that, he can go full sharpshooters. But there's a couple more helping out his composition right now.
Yeah, because I believe it was last time we saw Kurum actually performing really well with sharpshooters, running, I believe it was 3 chalices onto the Teemo at one point.
Yeah.
And he was able to take home the win off of that. With this current comp, he does have the chalice on Teemo as well, and he's throwing more rods, so that is still definitely an option. But with the IE and the Hodge already made, and also Morelos now, it's looking more like a Morgana Talon comp. Granted, Morelos for the Morgana, and then the other items there for the Talon. So against Bertasaurus, where we see another Diana real comp.
Another Moonlight, this time from Bertasaurus. We'll see how close he is to the Lysandra. It actually looks like he's not very close. That's just a Lysandra 1 on the left there, right? Not a Lysandra 2?
I believe that is a Lysandra 2, but I could be
wrong.
Oh,
no, it is. There is the glow around it. Yeah, absolutely. It is. So just needs 3 more Lysandras to actually get there. So fairly close at 4-2. However, going to need to hit very soon, or else we might see a repeat of what we saw earlier from Setsuko, where it worked out for a little bit, but fell off too quickly because Bertasaurus is already quite low.
And those itemization are, oh wait, hold on for a second. Setsuko here hitting a Talon 2 already with pretty much perfect items. So this is extremely strong. And he also hits a Dust Chosen. So Setsuko is very stable.
That's the Yone as well on 4-2 on 1%.
I missed that in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, this is disgusting from Setsuko. This is an insane comp. Poor Bertasaurus is just going to run straight into this. But this is, I mean, oh man, this is nuts. 3 Adept, Yone having the perfect Talon ready to go as well. And, well, I mean, the Diana's doing a pretty good job, actually. Bertasaurus might still be able to beat this, surprisingly.
So interestingly enough, I was going to comment that these items with Diana is actually not amazing, but against the talent, it really is because of the Bramble negating that IE damage. It's actually so good. But in generally though, the ideal items for Diana, or traditionally, is to run the Quicksilver, Titan's Resolve, and Gunblade. And Quicksilver is debatable in this meta because there's not as much CC in the early start of a round as before. But yeah, but against a talent composition, it just is like Assassin, no big deal. I have Bramble. So we'll have to see how that pans out for Bertasaurus. I personally am not a fan of those builds, but we just saw it worked out really greatly against Setsuko, who has one of the strongest boards in the game right now.
Yeah, going up against Saint. Saint still looking insanely strong, level 8 already here on 40 gold right now. He might be able to sell to 50. I'm not sure exactly where he's at, but he is at 40 as of now at this level 8. And Saint actually going to potentially lose this round. He has lost. I think he probably lost the last round as well because his win streak is gone. But yeah, this talent is so powerful for Setsuko. It was very surprising to see it lose, but yeah, you're right. That Bramble on Diana was just insanity in that previous round.
Yeah, so Setsuko here, I think that with the Yone pickup as well, as you mentioned before, with the exception of that Bramble Diana, I think he should be able to win streak safely into the next neutral, but we would have to scout a little bit more around to see if anyone else has a really strong board. I believe that was Ash 2 that I saw, but it only had a GA as the main item, so I don't think that would be strong enough for this full build talent. So doing a quick scout right now, this is the sharpshooters composition we saw before that is most likely going to pivot because of the IE and the Hodge, but he has yet to hit that mark yet. Pick up the Rod here with the Aatrox, making a Morelos, and mostly going to go onto the Morgana, but he was thinking whether or not to just slam it onto the Riven for now.
Yeah, I mean, still considering it. Setsuko heavily deciding whether or not that should go onto the Riven. Certainly looking for that Morgana too. Gonna slam it on the Riven for now.
All right, let's see who the next matchup is. Going to go against Hobos here, who has fallen off a little bit. We saw he had a really amazing start, but right now went down to 5th place with the sharpshooters composition.
Ooh.
Really great stun by the cannon there, though. Perfectly on all the units,
Yeah.
but the talent too, I believe, with the GA perfectly is still too much.
Yeah, I mean, that positioning is excellent from Hobos. It works really well against this composition from Setsuko, but of course, just this talent and the Riven just way too strong right now, just overpowering it and able to take that win. As we see 1109, looks like might lose that round. Yeah, we'll lose that round to Saint, still dropping even lower as Saint maintains the HP lead, but he's still, he's not heavily in the lead. It's about 10 HP to the next highest. And it does feel like his board is a little bit weaker now at this point. It feels like a lot more people will start to be beating Saint in the coming rounds, and we'll have to see if the economy can still carry him through into this late game.
So interesting right now, he really wants to play that Morgana too, but he wasn't sure if he wanted to lose his Riven chosen yet. Decided to opt in for it because the traditional comp is that you keep your 3 adept units and every unit that is on the board right now. So he decided that the Riven was not necessary for the time being. I think that taking out the Shen here might have been okay. Yes, you do lose 3 adept, but you're not running any mystics yet, and you're able to. I still think the Riven 2 with the dust was good, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think the Riven was strong, but getting this Morgana online is probably even more important. And I think it's probably arguable forever whether that Riven is still worth keeping in. But I think the main point was getting that Morello onto Morgana was just so incredibly important to have that was probably the deciding factor for Setsuko at the end of the day. And whether or not it actually was a better board is still debatable. But I think that had to be the reasoning at the end of the day for Setsuko.
Yeah, for sure. The Morgana had to go in. The question is, which was the unit that he had to take out? But yeah, so it worked out for him. He is on a 3 win streak right now, going to get to level 8 before his next roll down. He already hit all the units that he needs, so it's really just going to level 8 and being able to put in the 4 Enlighten unit and also get in the small buff of the 2 Mystics.
Yeah, we're going to see what items he can pick up to add to his collection. Going to be able to get another needlessly large rod, but I don't know. Out of that collection of items, what do you think you're making here, Risa?
So Zephyr and Locker are the two. So you see the positioning right now for his frontline unit. That's very common for this build. So you can just slam the Locket onto probably the Yone for me, just because I don't think I would be slamming too many items on the Yone enough to justify saving an entire slot for him. And I would put the Yone into the middle slot. But even regardless, he could put it on the Aurelia or the Shen instead, which he does now. And then Zephyr is surprisingly a pretty good item right now. You don't build it early at all, but not a lot of players run Quicksilver anymore.
Yeah, it's always been a bit of a late game item that you'd love to pick up at the end with whatever components you've got remaining. And Setsuko is able to pick it up and actually Zephyrs the Ash of Treebeard, which might be able to make the difference in this fight, because without that damage early on, this Talon just ran over Treebeard's composition, dropping him down to 5 HP. And Treebeard still might be struggling to make it to that 24-point threshold going into the rest of the games tonight.
Yeah, Treebeard is right now sitting 2 away from the Vanguard, but he did roll it all the way down already, unfortunately. And then we're going to Robinsongz roll down. So he has the Jin chosen already, and he did a quick little roll down. So he probably did a majority of it prior to it. Right now he is running 4 sharpshooters and 4 Vanguard, with the Jin having a lot of Zeeks on it for a attack speed boost.
Yeah, Robin has the chosen Jin. He's got all those Zeke buffing up his backline. He's got a Chalice as well, but sharpshooters going up against this Talon is pretty rough. Not enough CC landing onto it yet, and that's Setsuko just continuing this dominance, this win streak that he's been on with this perfect item Talon. And finally, we're seeing Talon really show up for what he's supposed to be. It feels like the Talons, tend to not be the ones that are absolutely dominating. But this time around, Setsuko hitting the perfect item, setting it pretty early on, has really been building up a pretty big lead. As we see Saint goes to 9 on 5-3. Oh. He's there already. 76 HP and a win streak. Saint wants to end it. Saint wants to end it now.
Saint just said, you know what, I was the underdog before, but I've learned the meta, I've learned this tournament, here I am. But we still have Hobos. Hobos at 5 HP, so it's looking unlikely. But Robin, Setsuko here is still in the running and trying to stop saintvicious from getting the first place.
Yeah, I mean, here's Hobos right now playing Talon as well, but his Talon has not been nearly as successful, as Hobos is down to 5 HP. Going up against Robin, does take this win, is stabilized, but he's on 10 gold. Hobos is not very strong. Hobos and Robin are the other two that are contending for the win here. Everyone else is just looking to stop Saint. But Robin and Hobos, neither of them look like they're in a position to get a first here.
Yeah, and then we finally do see, as you mentioned before, a lobby that does have Talon dominating. In our previous lobbies, we have seen it actually lose to Cultist, and then I believe in our game 2, we had a Kindred 3 just dominated the Talon as well. We have seen a couple of Talons here and there, but no one was able to accomplish the perfect build, and it was either all offensive items and died too early, or just not any offensive items at all. So we do see now 2 Talons, one that has a more of a perfect build and the other one that does have at least 1 defensive item and 2 offensive, doing better than before. Hobos at the end here, but the other player at the very top. But saintvicious, once again, playing 6 Warlord this time. So good for him. I am happy that he didn't just go for the Talon one-trick mindset and has now hit Cultist mages and now even Warlords and going for first place.
Yeah, sticking with this Jarvan the entire game. It carried his early game, and it's still just in. I mean, he's playing the Warlords now. Obviously, the Jarvan is no longer the focus of that composition, but he's made it to the point in the game where he's level 9. He's just looking for those legendaries, and we see him hit a tier 2 Azir, which is the perfect one when you're playing a Warlord composition.
Yep, and so Robin just keeps scouting saintvicious because he knows he might be going against him soon, and also he is a player that he either wants to avoid or make sure he can beat and try to stop his streak. But as you mentioned before, saintvicious already pushed to level 9. So he's definitely a scary contender right now. But going against 1109 right now, the Jin doing massive damage in the back line. Jinx able to push out some CC, and he's able to take the win against 1109.
Yeah, Robin gonna grab the win over 1109, and that will be knocking 1109 out. Gonna get 8th, and actually, Hobos and Bertasaurus going down as well. Hobos going out in 7th, Bertasaurus in 6th. So Treebeard hanging on with that Vigar.
Treebeard hit the 24-point threshold.
He did. But will it be too late? I mean, we did just see Saint drop a match here, drop a round. So he's not infallible. However, he is at 40 gold on level 9, working towards just a legendary composition once more.
Yeah, so Treebeard, I don't think he's going to be able to steal the first. I mean, I'd be happy to be proven wrong with that Veigar. Maybe he hit a Veigar 3 at this point. But we'll have to see here. Robin and Saintvicious is a 50-50 for them against the Setsuko and Benva, who may be able to steal first place away. So against Benva right now, got a really good stun.
Pretty strong on level 9 as well. However, it does look like the stuns from Jinx are really popping off here for Robin, and actually going to be a win for Robin over Benva. Even though he is at level 9, he does have a pretty strong composition with those legendaries. So the sharpshooters still working out here for Robin for a little bit, as Treebeard still on the win streak, taking down I think saintvicious actually, or it was a clone. Actually it was Saint. Yeah, it was Saint that was beat by Treebeard. So Treebeard really helping out Robin here.
I want to see the Veigar, but I don't want to cast a curse Treebeard. Like, I want Treebeard to move forward to top. Does Treebeard even keep the Veigar as a question? Because I know that Veigar
saw him grab a Veigar with a redemption off of the carousel, and I'm really curious if it was like him just trying to get even closer to Veigar 3. I didn't see it on the side, but production's telling us he has the Veigar 3, so I assume that Veigar was the one that did it for him. And so he's got the Veigar 3, and we got it. We got it. At some point, we got to just see if he can do it. But Robin hanging on, getting a bunch of wins with the sharpshooters. And it's important to note where Robin is at, because if he can pull off the first with these sharpshooters, he will win the day.
Yep, and then checking out saintvicious one time, he did hit a Lee Sin 2 now. So, okay, saintvicious is just going for the legendary build now that he's so ahead of his competitors. And then we're going to take a look now at saintvicious here. So he does only have a tier 1 Warwick and Ashe, and the Ashe only has 2 Hodge and the Shiv. So interesting item choices, but one thing is that he is very ahead of his competitors. He is hitting his legendaries, and he has 2 Nikos on his bench. So he's ready to have 5, 6 legendary tier 2s.
Yeah, I mean, looking at those Nikos, I actually really worry for everyone else in this lobby. I think that Saint might be able to get there. He's actually 2 Azirs from an Azir 3 right now with these double Nikos. And I wonder if that is potentially even what Saint is holding out for, because he could make this board a lot stronger right now, or he could hold out hope and go for that Azir. As he naturals into the Ashe, he finds one more Azir, and he finds a chosen Yone to put in. This is a disgusting comp. I mean, Saint's kind of on that warpath, that victory march right now. He needs one Azir for Azir 3.
I mean, at that point, there's no debating who the first place is. And that would be quite the victory, saying that, you know what, I won the challenge series with what? Oh, a Azir 3. So let's see if he ends up hitting that Azir, but otherwise, he's still really strong even without it, to be honest. Against Robinsongz right now, who did took a drastic hit in the prior round, is the sharpshooter going to be enough?
Yeah, I mean, the bounces need to come out from Jinx. She's getting bounced around by the Azirs. Maybe some damage here from the Jhin, but it doesn't look like it's quite enough. The stuns, maybe one more. That's a big stun. Robin actually wins that round. That is huge. That is massive for Robin, because instead of going out there, he takes a big chunk out of Saint's HP, and Saint is out of gold. Saint is not like guaranteed to hit this Azir. Not by any means. As he misses it twice, he's not getting it just yet. If Setsuko can actually beat Saint as well, that can absolutely do it. I wonder if Saint will actually just commit these Nikos at some point here, because maybe tier 2 Zillion can make a difference. But it feels so bad to use those when you are 1 Azir away from basically a guaranteed win. I feel like Azir 3 has got to be just game winning.
I think at this point for saintvicious, I would agree for the Azir, because that is your guaranteed first place. But granted, if you take one more big hit and you go down to 5, I mean, what do you need go? Everything else is already perfect for him, like maybe the Zillion too, but we'll have to see here. Against Setsuko right now, the Talon G gets procced almost immediately, unable to finish him off here. There we go, the Azir took it out, and I believe this should be a win for saintvicious, leaving only the Morgana left now, which is doing a lot of damage to backline, taking out a lot more units than I expected.
Yeah, it made it a much softer hit to Setsuko than I was expecting there. And no, Robin fell. Robin's down, and Saint has been beating Setsuko. Saint was only losing to Robin. The path is clear
There's an
for
Azir.
Saint, and there's an Azir on the. Does
Setsuko's been
Setsuko know?
scouting.
I think he's
been scouting.
He's gotta know. He's walking away from it. He's walking away. He didn't grab it. Saint has Azir 3.
The competitors are paying him question marks.
That's gotta be the game he didn't know. We see a GG in the chat from Benva. He knows it's done. I mean, that's just Azir 3.
There we have it, ladies and gentlemen, and Azir 3. And then also forfeiting is not allowed. The peanut gallery is seeing the Azir 3 and feeling the demise, but we'll have to see this through.
Saint is very likely going to be winning here with this Azir 3. It is going to be so hard for Setsuko to beat this. He wasn't winning prior to the Azir 3 being completed.
They get suffered immediately, but is that enough though? As long as Azir ults once, I feel like that would be pretty devastating.
Yeah, the front line feels too tanky, and there's the Azir ultimate just destroying everything on the board. Saint gonna deal a lot of damage to Setsuko, and he's still got another round, but the Azir just wipes the board with that shuffle, with the wall coming through.
All right.
Saintvicious.
Think we're heading into our last round of the game. So here's the thing. He got the perfect Zephyr positioning onto the Azir. Honestly, that didn't do much. So the other alternative is maybe Setsuko.
No, Setsuko. He closes it out. He knows he can't beat him. And Saintvicious, after a 7th place finish last week and starting out with a fast 8th, he runs it back and scales into a back-to-back first to take the road to qualifiers, the Challenger Series this week. He's going to be qualifying for that qualifier coming up very soon.
Definitely an underdog story, because last week we definitely did see him struggle a lot with a lot of bottom 4s, but this week he did start off like that again, but he said, no, you know what? I do have the hang of the tournament now. I understand the format. I'm going to play flexibly and not just Ashen Talon. And he came as surprised with a different comp almost every single round, running Talons, not Talons, but a TF chosen for 2 of those games. And then now also a Warlord as well for a while into Legendary. So really great plays from Saintvicious. We'll be getting him in shortly for a winner's interview. And we have our second confirmed player through this Challenger Series for the NA Qualifier 1 event. So super hyped for that. And I know you've been cheering on for Saintvicious since last week, actually. So how does it feel to finally have Saintvicious win this tournament?
Yeah, I'm glad that he made it through. You know, I had wanted to see him play in tournaments for a bit. He's been in the scene for a very long time. I watched him a bit back in the league days as well. And him coming through and having a pretty poor performance last week, but then completely turning it around and being pretty dominant other than in game 1 across the entire day today. It was awesome to watch. And I think he really showed his true level this week. He really showed how good of a player he is. It didn't feel like he was on his normal form in the previous Challenger Series.
Yeah, we saw him. Honestly, Saintvicious is doing extremely well in the snapshots right now. There's still 1 left, so we haven't been able to obtain the finalists for the snapshots. But looking at the score right now, the tournament side of things, both TL and the Challenger Series has reached its conclusion for the Qualifier 1. Saintvicious coming out first with starting off slow, 1, 6, 8, and then getting the double first places in a row. And Robinsongz and Setsuko coming very close in 2nd and 3rd place. So great performance from Saintvicious. And as you mentioned before, in round 4, Saintvicious needed that first place in order to win. He needed both first place in order to get this kind of victory, and he was able to come through. So this is the type of story we want to see from this kind of format. And how did it make you feel, Casa, when you saw that Saintvicious was able to go from that 8th place into a first and a first to end it off?
Yeah, I mean, he had to. You said it best yourself. He had to go first into first to close it out. We've mentioned that a few times for players in this format. We've been, when we've said, hey, this player needs to first into first to actually pick up this win. And this time around, Saint did it. He pulled through. He got first to hit that 24-point threshold. At 25, he reached 25, but he needed it to reach the 24-point threshold. And then from there, I mean, he can't allow Robin or Hobos to take it. And if you don't get first in this round, the next time it becomes just everyone's game. But Saint able to actually pick up the back-to-backs to ensure that he's the one who takes it home. And I mean, absolutely well played. Really, really, really solid across the board, across the entire day, really.
Yeah, and give us a couple minutes as we're trying to get saintvicious into call with us right now. I know it's probably really late for him, so I think we have him online right now. Saintvicious, is that you?
I'm really tired.
Yeah, I expect. I know this tournament is late for you, but you did it really well. So you start off with a little rough start, and you played in last week's challenge series as well. Did you come into this tournament with a different type of strategy?
I honestly have only been playing League of Legends. I haven't been
We did see in your stream, sorry, Casanova, that you were going to one trick talent, but you end up playing really flexibly. So were you going to just play talent every single game, or you decide otherwise once you actually get into the tournament a little bit more?
all the first 2 rounds that all the town players bottom forward, and I was one of them. I got like 4th place with a pretty high roll, you know. So after I realized that, I saw like cultists did good, so I just tried to do that every game, and then I high rolled like the Warlord Jarvan in the last game. So I don't know, it just worked out.
Yeah, definitely worked out for you. And then Casa, if you have any questions for saintvicious.
Yeah, I was definitely going to ask about the Talon, but that's something that it seemed like it wasn't working very well in the meta. You know, you've been playing a lot of League, so I'm not going to go too in depth on the meta, but just overall, when you reached level 9 so early on in this last game, did you kind of know that you were about to take first, you were about to win, and get your spot in the qualifiers?
Yeah, I mean, I had fortune in the whole time too. So
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think like just the last 2 lobbies were. I don't think people were like that strong. I feel like people were like contesting each other really hard. I think there's like 2 Dust one tricks in the that were playing in the tournament today. So they were contesting each other, and then I know Robinsongz plays a lot of like sharpshooters, and they didn't really seem to work out. So I think it was just like rough for those people.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so you're now a confirmed player for the NA qualifier event. So, one, how does it make you feel? And then, two, are you going to practice or use any type of strategies going into that tournament?
Nah, I'll just play, and then it feels good, and I'll just do it. I think it's like important to it. I think it's important to adapt. That's like I think that's like the main takeaway is like I had an idea of something being strong coming into this, and then I like saw what happened in the first 2 games, and then I like adapted to it. So I think that's the most important thing to work on, and what I want to work on more.
Yeah. And then, Casa, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I just think, you executed really well on that. You adapted perfectly. I mean, starting out with the 8th, obviously not great, but then the rest of the time, it felt like you did extremely well. You needed first place to reach the 24 points to ensure a victory, and then you needed first again to close it out, and you did it. You were clutch at the end, so just congratulations, man, and we'll see you in the qualifiers.
Thanks, man. Have a good night.
Yeah. And then, saintvicious, do you have any final shout outs that you want to say before we go?
Shout out to all the people watching my stream. You know, always make it fun, make streaming the game and climbing the ladder a fun time. So appreciate all my community. So thanks all those people.
Yeah, and thank you for competing. So congratulations once again. And this will be the end of the second Challenger series. We'll be coming back on November 30th for the third one. Casanova, thank you for joining me today. And thank you everyone for watching. We will see you again then.